All right, call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Brian Card,
Here.
Norm Farren,
Present.
Michael Hugo,
Yeah.
John Sarantopoulos, Keith Thurlow.
Here. All right, citizens' comments on items not subject to public hearing. There's no public hearing, so we're gonna do 21 minutes, 3 minutes apiece. So ultimately, assuming everybody goes 3 minutes, it's 7 people. As this is a hybrid meeting, citizens can participate in the citizens' comment by WebEx, joined by phone 1-415-655-0001, access code 2634-099-0395. As this is a special meeting, public comments are limited only to items on this agenda. So, site plan review, application 261364, Ryan Companies, oh, no, not yet. I'm ahead of myself already. Public comment. Name and address, please.
Ed Grandelski, Upper Maple Street, also town council member. The first thing, I take offense regarding applicant's attorney stating a statement regarding the excessive 5 months' time for completion of the permit review. This was last month. We got to be here. We're all volunteers. I'm sorry, if we need information, we should get what we need. We have to go to third-party people to get additional, make changes to your documents. You know, so it offends me that those kind of statements are made by professional people. The P&Z Commission is a regulatory agent, and as such should require that completed written permits be on file prior to start of any of the construction work. The specific permits, the DOT traffic study permit, the DEP stormwater permit, the NDDH DEEP septic permit. And there should also be a contract on file between the applicant and Connecticut Water. If none of these are done, if that's not a criteria before construction begins, I don't know what has to be done. If something happens, I've seen it in the past where work is started based on a verbal approval, then all of a sudden when the written approval comes in, oh, now we have a hardship. So I think you guys got to stand fast that these permits got to be in place and before any other work can be done. Most of these permits are not done yet. They're in process. I don't know how much longer it's going to take. I mean, if they have a conflict with us taking months to do, or the P&Z Commission, Wetlands Commission taking months to do something, why don't you go talk to DOT, DEP, NDDH, and those guys to tell them to hurry up with their applications for their permits. There was another memo I saw, a Langdon memo dated June 15th, and there was a question I couldn't understand, but the questions were broken down. This was under the area of Amazon questions. It was question number 4, and it was talking about the guardhouse associates are immediately notified of any fire alarm activation. At time of notification, they ensure that all delivery trucks clear either the inbound or the outbound lanes for the fire department access into the secure truck court, into either the fireman command center or fire pump house. My question is, how much time is it going to actually take them to clear one side of the driveway? This driveway is a half a mile long. I mean, you got to have something else. Making that statement is insufficient for our first responders. That driveway has to be cleaned quickly. Another question is, we're talking about a blasting plan for town and P&Z review. My comment with that, there should be monitoring wells downstream of the blasting area. Otherwise, this is such a massive blasting area that's going to be done that if you don't have any monitoring downstream, monitoring wells, we're going to have a problem. And I say that because the applicant's attorney in a prior entity or whatever, I couldn't find the document, stated that the project is not located within a water company public water supply watershed. and that the nearest public supply watershed is more than 5 miles to the north. Well, my comment to that is Westcott Road, exit 38, is at mile marker 38.8. Route 101, exit 41, is at mile marker 41.2. That's a distance of 4.2 miles.
Ed, you
Now-
gotta wrap that up, okay?
Okay, so that's a lot, that's almost half of the 4 miles. Then you take into account the driveway, that's a half mile long, and at the aquifer beginning, like Boudreaux's Welding and some of those companies, that the aquifer to the westerly is more than a half mile from 101. So that's, about a mile and a half. So some of these comments that are made by the applicant, I mean, they got to be held accountable to make the right information. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Steve Krizda, but I'm actually representing Matthew Krizda at 89 Catherine Avenue, who cannot be here. That's my son. I just want to cap off comments I made about Amazon the last time I ran out of minutes. I just want to point out that the most polluting part of Amazon's delivery system is really what's known as the last mile, whether that's coming or going. Amazon wants smaller last mile optimized facilities, what they call fast shipping, which of course is going to result in more pollution with trucks leaving before they're full, and drivers might be looping back to the same neighborhoods multiple times per day, this according to an AP report. Trucks are going to be coming out half empty and coming back empty, all the while polluting. The Amazon Now service, okay, wants to deliver thousands of items in 30 minutes or less, all right, and that's going to be highly problematical when it comes to the issue of pollution. A past Environmental Defense Fund, the EDF, study indicated that diesel pollution contributes to nearly 21,000 asthma diagnoses in the New York City metro area each year, okay? So let there be no doubt in your mind that this project is an ecological abomination, okay? Bottom line. I'm just gonna stop right there. Thank you.
Good evening, Ralph Mastrangelo, 2 Starling Court, Danielson. I wanted to follow on from the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I'm referencing a point in the video that was posted. It's at, just in case you want this, it's at the 3-hour, 8-minute, and 40-second mark. This has to do with questions that applicant's attorney Cody responded to, and in particular question number 8. And to refresh your memory, the question was, any blasting? If yes, will the applicant take responsibility for damage caused by the blasting? Now, in that question, it was never fully stated exactly what's meant by responsibility. What is the specific, not assumed, not implied, what is the specific definition of responsibility? What is it that the applicant is willing to put in writing with regard to how they define responsibility? Does it mean they will pay for damages caused by blasting? What is the claim process in that case? Applicant needs to put this in writing in explicit terms, no assumptions. Now, Attorney Cody stated, and I'm quoting, "As we noted in our May 7th compliance memorandum, yes, blasting is expected to be conducted during project construction." He then went on to make the following points, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, I'll just summarize. He addressed the areas where blasting would take place, 1,500 feet from the nearest residential building. All site work contractors will be required to follow local, state, and federal requirements. Guidance from Connecticut DEEP for evaluating potential hydrogeological impact associated with blasting. Zoning regulations include specific requirements about blasting, including They would meet with the fire marshal to secure his review and approval of the blasting plan prior to blasting. Contractors would be required to adhere to all of that. In Ty and Bond's final letter to the commission, they recommended a condition of approval, which applicant has already agreed to. He then concluded with, and I quote, "That answers that question." I disagree. He answered the first part, which was, "Will there be blasting?" And he said yes. With respect to the second part of the question, it sounds more like Attorney Cody answered whether or not the applicant will act responsibly with respect to blasting. However, he never specifically answered the question if the applicant will take responsibility for any damages caused by the blasting. And I call on Attorney Cody to readdress that question if in fact the applicant will take responsibility for damages caused by the blasting.
Thank you.
Hello?
I think you have a caller on the line for citizens' comment as well.
Somebody on the line?
Hello, yes. Jasmine Birdie, 125 Lake Road in Dayville. I noticed in the Amazon question, the first one, are there batteries for the robots that need a charge in one room or all over? And their response was that that facility does not utilize a battery storage room for replacement batteries, and they are shipped separately. However, down below it asks about forklifts that are electric. I'm wondering, what kind of batteries are those? And are those being stored in that facility and are just not categorized in a way that somebody had asked that previous question? That's what I'd like to know. I think this project just ridiculous, and everybody is just being blindsided. And Ryan Companies, if it's the right company anyway, has current legal issues going on that people really should be looking into. And this is also less than half a mile from a school, which I'm pretty sure, as far as my research, is not legal to be doing this kind of project. It's, I think, 0.3 or 0.4 miles away from an elementary school. So it might be an issue. Thank you.
Yeah, Ian McDonald, 548 Valley Road. And I would request that we extend this comment period. I think it's an important decision, and I think that's reasonable. As you know, there's some things that are troubling me around the traffic issue. Certainly, it's troubling that, you know, it seems to be everything is referred to as state roads only being impacted when very clearly Knox Ave, which my understanding is the town maintains and the taxpayers pay for, is going to be significantly impacted. Again, you know, just the potential to clog up the entrance to our most important ambulance service and our most important police service in the area is very troubling to me. I'll also say that I don't know I haven't seen, you know, in this traffic study, I don't know how much traffic is potentially coming from Brooklyn direction, but if you're entering Google Maps, it's telling me to go down Main Street. And I know Amazon speed is everything. You know, they have more than double the injuries in their warehouse staff, and I think a lot of that is the insistence on speed. So I'm very concerned about traffic going down Main Street. And also just a change in traffic patterns. You know, I often take that road going home up to East Killingly, and I think a lot of people probably take that road, and now I'll probably go down, very likely be going down Main Street, which is already fairly busy. My mother-in-law lives in North Main. As to the fire, you know, I'm not clear on what arrangements have been agreed on to have adequate fire suppression in place. at the site, and what's really been firmed up, following up on Mr. Grandelski's the comments he mentioned. I'm not casting any aspersions on the fire marshal or Ty and Bond, but I'll say it is the fire department that actually has to deal with these things, and they're probably very well equipped to deal with much of what we already have in town, but this is an extremely large facility, and I think there were issues with Lake Road generating when we had a fire there, not because of any failure by our volunteer fire department, but because I think there were unforeseen situations. So I find it very disturbing that it seems like up to this last meeting, we haven't had significant sit-downs with the sending fire departments, not only the fire marshal, but the departments, to make sure they have a high level of comfort, because they're the ones who are going to be responsible for actually responding to this and whose lives are going to be on the line if we have a fire that's like an 8-day fire like they just had out in Los Angeles. And that's in Los Angeles County, where they have God knows how many resources to pour at it. So they should be more than comfortable in the fact that we're just finding out, maybe they have a solution for this meeting, but to me, it's a little too late. Lastly, I'll just say, I'll just leave it at that for now. Let's get some other people up here. Thank you. And again, I hope we can extend this.
Rebecca Briansky, 376 Westcott Road. I don't know about anybody else, but I kind of want to know what kind of chemicals are going to be blasted. I would like to first address the concerns about blasting into the wetlands. Since some chemicals are soluble and others are insoluble, the insoluble chemicals remain at the detonation site as forever chemicals, affecting not only the water, but also the soil. Wetlands are harmed by 3 forces: polluted runoff, chemicals, hydrologic alterations. Blasting the chemicals accomplishes all 3. We should all be informed about the chemicals they will be blasting with. I researched and I found 3 that are very worrisome. First is hexahydro. This is one that is insoluble, meaning it will remain at the detonation site. Exposure causes liver damage, kidney damage, and harm to the nervous system. The second is perchlorates. They are soluble and highly mobile in water. They are forever chemicals, and exposure can cause thyroid function issues in humans as well as human fetuses. The third, bear with me, trinitrotoluene. This chemical is toxic to aquatic life. Exposure may cause long-term effects, including bladder cancer in animals, and is believed to be a carcinogen in humans. It also causes damage to the liver and the nervous system. Under the Endangered Species Act, it is illegal to harm wildlife or fish that federal government lists as endangered or threatened. Harm means killing or injuring fish or wildlife, changing or degrading their habitat in a way that impairs their essential behavior patterns. Wetland animals that inhabit Killingly, Connecticut that are endangered and depend on local swamps, marshes, and vernal pools for survival are the bog turtle, dwarf wedge mussel, blue spotted salamander, spotted turtle, wood turtle, and wood frog. Lastly, I'm really concerned with the fire risk because this is a robotic fulfillment center. Robotic fulfillment centers present a high fire risk characterized by intense fires that are hard to extinguish and can destroy entire facilities. The reliance on hundreds of lithium-ion batteries creates unique fire situations. They can cause fires due to mechanical damage or malfunctions during charging. The size of the center would be 1.37 million square feet. That alone is extremely concerning for our little town. We would not be able to handle a fire of that magnitude. Please consider what everyone brings to the table. This will affect wildlife, water, air, and traffic. It poses a huge fire risk. Everything about this feels wrong. Thank you for your time. Please stop this.
Rebecca Rainville, 120 Leho Road in Danielson. just thank you for letting us speak tonight. I appreciate that. And I just want you to know that we are firmly against this. Amazon is not welcome here. We don't want you here. You are already in Plainfield, and you also already have a massive facility at 3.3 million square feet in Johnson, Rhode Island, which is 18.4 miles away. The Amazon in Plainfield is 10.2 miles away. Why do you need one here? And who knows what's going up on 101? But you are not welcome here, and we beg you to listen to the citizens here, a change of venue, so you can see the concerned citizens that live here and are going to have to deal with this. So, you know the saying, it's business, it's not personal, it's business. Well, it's extremely personal to all of us here and all of us that are not in this room, that are listening. It's personal to all the animals that will lose their habitat. It's personal to the 25 wetlands that will be stripped, dug up, and destroyed. It's personal to the land, the trees, the animals that will be stripped, blasted, and blown apart. A beautiful land replaced by 450 football fields of disgusting, obscene, concrete monstrosity. Nobody needs that much space. Nobody. Our quiet town will be replaced by 400 trucks running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of light pollution, noise pollution, and air pollution. Our well water sources will be polluted, our streams, rivers polluted from the runoff from the trucks' exhaust fumes and from blasting. Our landscape in our town will never look the same, never sound the same, and never smell the same. Our citizens will suffer from the stress, the noise, and the air quality. I work in oncology. I've been in oncology for 10 years working with cancer patients. And yes, genetics play a role in cancer, but so does stress, noise pollution, environmental pollution. You're going to drastically change our whole area here. Not just here, but Dayville. Plainfield has been, they were trying to get a Costco in there, and Uline, and trash plants, and we have ash plants. What is the quiet corner? Where did we go wrong? You know, our citizens, we work 2 jobs, we go to school, we have families. But I know after this, if this gets approved, our town is going to wake up. And we need to have an area, a change of venue where people can get up and speak. We have a right to live in quiet and in peace in our town, and we beg you to decline this. Ashford, Connecticut, just decline them. Essex, Vermont, also, no Amazons in Vermont. If they can do it, we can do it. Thank you.
Ulatique Barclay, 26 Dark Lantern Hill Road. I'm here as a resident and also representing the people of the 3rd District of Killingly as a town councilor. First, I'd like to apologize to the P&Z Commission members, to all of the heat that you're taking for the Project Tusky. The residents are angry because they've been blindsided. There was no democracy in this process. It was all done underhandedly. 2 of the individuals responsible for this project coming forward are the Economic Development Director, Jill St. Clair, and the Director of Planning and Development, who has retired, Anne Marie Aubrey. Those are the 2 people who worked under the wire, knew what was going on, and kept us in the dark, and the commission members. The Business Park District regulations were manipulated and opened the door for Project Tusky. Attorney Cody, your treatment of the town and its residents is appalling. You talk down to us as if we're a bunch of idiots. You know nothing about the people that live in Killingly. At the last meeting, you sat there and you laughed at people giving public comment. Just to let you know, one of my sons attended West Point Military Academy. Another one of my sons has a degree in mechanical engineering and is a captain in the United States Air Force and a helicopter instructor pilot. Another one of my sons went to Dartmouth College and recently graduated with a Juris Doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania, Penn Carey Law School. So no, we are not a bunch of idiots in this town. You threaten us with lawsuits, cite case law, tell us this project is as of right, it cannot be denied based on speculation. Ryan's companies must comply with regulations set forth in the Business Park District and must present data not based on speculation also. Everything presented thus far is hypothetical. Currently, Pine Island, Minnesota, Project Skyway, 2025 to currently, is an ongoing lawsuit. The Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy is suing the City of Pine Island and Ryan Companies for the Technology Park Data Center, water energy use, noise, and compliance with planning and zoning. So they are not such a good company that we have been led to believe. When answering the question, will the project affect public drinking water in town, the answer was the applicant does not believe that there will be any impact to water public drinking water in the town. Where is the scientific evidence? Where is the actual data from a hydrological study? When answering the question about putting money aside for wells going dry or becoming contaminated, Attorney Cody bloviated for a few minutes but never answered the question. This confirms that private wells will be negatively impacted, and you do not want to take responsibility for this.
Can you wrap that up, Ula?
Yes, one more. We were told that wetlands that are destroyed and damaged during the construction phase will be rebuilt. Where is the evidence that this process will be successful? Most evidence I research stated the successful reconstruction of wetlands with the condition that will ensue at the proposed construction and project site is very low. The intent of the planning and zoning regulations to secure safety from fire, to protect inland wetlands, flood-prone areas, and other natural resource areas in the town, to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of all residents of the town of Killingly.
Russ Daniels, Sales Avenue, Dayville. I've heard tonight an incompetent attorney, and also we have an incompetent engineer here from Tyke Bond. He stated that the water tank at this proposed and monstrosity would be 250,000 gallons of water. Well, if he had sharpened his pencil and done his homework, he would have found out that in March 10th, 2022, the Walmart warehouse fire in Plainfield, Indiana, 1-point-something million square feet, burned for a week. They couldn't put it out. These are typical of these lithium-ion batteries. You can't put them out. They had two, not one, two 300,000-gallon water tanks in that warehouse that did nothing. That's 600,000 gallons of water. Didn't put it out. What does that tell you? It burned for a week. It cost $500 million in damages. And Lord knows what that town's like today. This is what you're looking at. Ed mentioned fire trucks having room to go up to the building in case of a fire. Forget it. Once it starts to go up, you're not going to get anywhere near it. Evacuate everybody in the area because that place is going to burn for days on end. That alone should be enough to shoot this project down. Traffic exiting to get onto Route 395 southbound would have to take a left. I forget the name of that side street. It begins with a G. Reynolds and Hawkins Streets run off of it. It goes for a half a mile before it becomes a Route 395 south on-ramp. So you've got a neighborhood between Broad Street and 395 south that's going to be bypassed by hundreds of tractor trailers every single day. Their windows rattling, disturbing the peace. That in itself is outrageous and good reason to deny this permit. Whatever you gentlemen decide, please put the residents of Killingly number one, I beg you.
I think we're down to one more. Mr. Angelo, you already spoke. I don't know if it's fair to the next people.
Kevin Merrick, 15 Pequot Circle. I'd like to yield my time to my neighbor.
Doesn't matter, it's 21 minutes is up.
Ralph Mastrangelo, 2 Starling Court, Danielson. I keep asking myself, as we all should, is this really worth it? Is it worth sacrificing everything we've heard during these public hearings? Decreased property values, destruction of wetlands and wildlife habitats, water, air, light, and noise pollution, 600 to 800 trucks per day, traffic congestion, and the list of negatives go on and on. Things we will never get back, and for what? Is this progress? How do we, as Killingly residents, truly benefit from this? What do we directly gain from this? Now let's ask the same questions for Amazon. What do they stand to gain from this? Of course, all they're interested in is profit. Do you honestly believe they care anything about our property values, pollution issues, asthma rates in Killingly, children with autism being traumatized by the blasting, and every other negative thing you've heard over the last few months? Amazon is not a social service agency. They are a multi-billion-dollar corporation whose singular interest is profit. Why must Killingly residents who are just trying to live their lives in a place they love be forced to make so many sacrifices in order for Amazon to make even more billions while we get relatively so little in return? Amazon laid off approximately 16,000 employees in late January 2026, which came after 14,000 cuts in late 2025. These cuts are aimed at increasing reliance on AI and automation to streamline operations. Because of this, these proposed warehouse positions are tenuous at best. In time, the majority of these warehouse positions will be gone. Furthermore, once Amazon deems this warehouse distribution center to no longer be useful or even redundant, given the one in Plainfield so close and Johnston so close, they will abandon this one without hesitation. Or as they've done before, we will be stuck with a 1.3 million square foot albatross around our necks. Now, here are just a few notable, concrete examples documenting this. Since 2022, Amazon has closed, subleased, or canceled plans for approximately 100 warehouses and distribution centers in 30 states, 7 of them in New England alone. Late last year, Amazon indefinitely closed its 5-story, 3.6 million square foot fulfillment center in Little Rock, Arkansas, after discovering significant engineering errors that made the building unsafe. Thousands of workers were impacted by the sudden closure of this facility. A massive 3.5 million square foot Amazon fulfillment center in Loveland, Colorado was originally scheduled to open in 2024. It has sat empty for almost 2 years due to, and I quote, redesign issues. Does anyone here truly believe Killingly will be immune from any of this? I don't want any of that to happen to us, and I don't think anyone here wants that. And I would sincerely hope.
Okay, that's it.
I would sincerely hope,
up.
this is the
It's
last
enough.
sentence. This is the last sentence.
Said that before.
I will sincerely, no, I didn't. I will sincerely hope that you, as members of the Killingly Planning and Zoning Commission, wouldn't want your legacy to be those who allowed it to happen.
That's it. Done.
No charge.
All right, presentation by Site Plan Review, Ryan Companies US Incorporated, property address 228 Westcott Road. Continued from June 15th, 2026. The Inland Wetlands Commission has closed its hearing, however, they have not made a decision. Therefore, PZ cannot make a decision until July 20th. Somebody from Ryan Companies want to make, or are you going to all just sit there? I mean, come on. I'm sorry, what? Legal counsel, please. Is that what you're saying? Go ahead, sir. Oh, wait a minute. Did you want to talk about the,
I can either do it before the presentation or immediately thereafter, but I'm happy to talk about the intervention.
why don't you
petition.
do it right now?
Okay. So there were 3 intervention.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
There were 3 intervention petitions that were submitted, and that's under the Connecticut Environmental Protection Act, Section 22A-19. And what it allows is And I've submitted a several-page memo, but I can summarize everything right now. But it allows that persons can intervene as parties to administrative, licensing, judicial, and other proceedings if they allege the conduct is reasonably likely to cause harm to a natural resource of the state of Connecticut. Now, there have been a whole lot of cases that have been decided interpreting the scope of that. And one of the important cases decided that what it doesn't do is it doesn't turn an agency, it's the Connecticut Fund for the Environment versus Stanford, and it was a Stanford wetlands agency, and an intervention petition was brought that raised issues beyond inland wetlands and watercourses protection. And what the Connecticut Supreme Court said is that the 22A19 doesn't allow the expansion of what the jurisdiction of the agency has, and decided efforts in that case to do things like air pollution, things like that, was not something that you could intervene with because the wetlands agency only has authority over wetlands. Another case that came later was a Nazardo case in which someone tried to intervene in a state DOT proceeding involving State Traffic Commission, formerly known as the State Traffic Commission. And the Supreme Court said that that agency doesn't have any jurisdiction over environmental issues, and therefore intervention wasn't appropriate. So one of the first tests you look at when one of these intervention petitions come in is whether or not your commission has jurisdiction over environmental considerations. Much of what's in those petitions all relates to wetlands and wetland impacts. You have a wetland agency in town, and it is charged under the general statute to make decisions regarding wetlands. You shouldn't have two different agencies making two independent decisions about whether or not wetlands are going to be impacted. So, and the standards for evaluating this application, there aren't any wetland standards. The only role you have with wetlands is you're supposed to give due consideration with what the Wetlands Commission decides. You'll get their report, and that's why you can't make a decision tonight, because they haven't made their decision. But in our opinion, you don't have jurisdiction to decide the questions in the intervention petition that relate to the wetlands and wetland impacts. Now, the petition does include references to sections of the regulations pertaining to stormwater management and soil and erosion controls. And those are things that are within your jurisdiction. I conclude that arguably there aren't enough, since most of the facts in the petition really relate to wetlands, and they don't have a tremendous amount of detail about how the stormwater and soil and erosion would affect an environmental resource. My recommendation is you do recognize the interveners as parties to the case, parties to this proceeding, but that you limit their ability to present any information to the aspects of the regulations related to stormwater management and soil and erosion controls. And if you agree with that, your procedure is at some point in this process, it could be tonight, it could be your next meeting, the interveners, not during public comment period, but during the actual proceeding on the application itself, that they be afforded, that you recognize their intervention petition for the limited purposes of presenting evidence related to the stormwater management and soil and erosion control, and whether or not there will be reasonable likelihood of an impact to a natural resource. And then when they're done, not immediately there, you don't have to do it immediately, at some point during deliberations, you would have to decide whether they have the burden to present evidence and have substantial evidence that there's actually reasonable likelihood of an impact to an environmental resource. And if you decide that there is, if you decide that there isn't, you don't do any more. If you decide that there is, then you have one more responsibility, and that is you'd have to decide whether there's any feasible and prudent alternatives that would either reduce or eliminate the impact to the environmental resources. So that's my review. I mean, I go through some more detail in the cases and cite the sections of the regulations and what your role is, but in summary, that's my recommendation, is that you recognize the intervention status for a limited purpose. Although I do think it would be defensible to say that there's not enough detail in there and the intervention petitions don't qualify at all. But all things considered, I would recommend that you do recognize the intervention for that purpose. And I'm happy to answer any questions about, the statute, the process,
Commissioners, any questions for the attorney? Anybody? Mike? John?
I have one on intervention, like, this issue concerning transportation hasn't been fully decided by the Department of Transportation. The Office of the State Traffic Administration reserves the right, once it is approved or I guess approved, not disapproved, that they will review the transportation issue and make a final determination. Does an individual have a right to be an intervener?
That Nazardo case that I referenced was actually one, now it's called OSHTA, but before it was the State Traffic Commission, STC. Someone intervened in the STC process, and the Supreme Court said, no, they can't, because there's no environmental considerations that they apply when they look at those traffic issues. And since there's no environmental issues that they need to decide, environmental intervention is inappropriate. So I would think that case would govern if someone tried to intervene in OSHTA's process after this hearing after this process is over. No, they wouldn't be able to intervene.
An individual cannot become an intervener when the Office of the State Traffic Administration reviews all traffic issues concerning this project.
That's right. That's exactly what the Supreme Court decided in Nazardo.
You cannot.
That you cannot, because the State Traffic Commission does not have any environmental responsibilities. Like a wetland commission has environmental responsibilities, so if someone intervenes to say, I think there's going to be an adverse impact to wetlands,
I'm not
they can do
talking
that.
about environmental issues.
That's the only purpose. That statute only allows intervention for environmental reasons. That's it.
Well, now you're saying something that I understand. So as an intervener, it has to involve environmental issues
That's correct.
on whatever the issue is.
Right, whatever, it has to be, it's only environmental issues, its statute comes out of the Environmental Protection Act. It's only environmental issues, and it has to be environmental issues that are within the jurisdiction of the agency. So if your regulations in reviewing a site plan, you have to demonstrate a whole bunch of environmental considerations. There was a case in which was a special permit, I believe, called Kaiser, in which the local regulations, zoning regulations, had a whole bunch of environmental things. In that case, the court said that you can petition to intervene and present evidence regarding those standards. So someone could intervene in a wetlands agency proceeding to raise wetland issues, and as I've recommended, in this case, you have regulations in terms of site plan review, stormwater management, and soil and erosion control is something before this commission. So I think intervention is appropriate if someone can demonstrate that, the failures of or the inadequacy of those systems will reasonably likely cause harm to the environment. And then after you hear all of the evidence on that, obviously the applicant also has the ability to present evidence to rebut what an intervener would say, and then ultimately you make a decision whether the intervener demonstrated that reasonable likelihood of environmental harm.
So that I'm clear. You can't be an intervener for congestion, for safety,
That's correct.
quality of life issues.
That's correct. Intervention is, and in fact, it's drafted focusing in on the environmental. I mean, and it did that, and it was drafted like many intervention. My only quarrel with it is a lot of it had to do with wetlands, and you can't dip your toe into wetland regulation. That's something the wetland agency said. So yes, that's right. It's not these other kinds of planning or zoning purposes unrelated to the environment. Well, you haven't recognized, by all means, Mr. Chair, you can allow somebody to speak. That's your prerogative. But you haven't found yet, the agency hasn't yet found, I'm recommending that you find that they be considered interveners, but you haven't yet done that. So at some point, you need to recognize them as interveners or not. You can do that tonight. You can do that at another meeting. But you certainly can just allow a member of the public to speak if you want to. It's your prerogative, but it's not a public hearing, but you could. But you might also want to wait until you decide whether or not they're interveners to be heard.
Commissioners, any comments? Any other comments from the commissioners first?
No.
Yeah, I think we should go with legal counsel's recommendation and accept the intervenor status.
Somebody make a motion, right? We need a motion for that? Motion in a second?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we accept the intervenor as, well, accept the application of the intervenor in front of this board.
Second? Anybody second?
I'll second it, but with caveat that it's only evidence regarding stormwater and erosion control impacts on the environmental resources. So that'd
Further
be-
discussion? Under discussion. Under discussion. I want the commissioners first, and then any other discussion from commissioners? Having none, okay.
Yeah, so I just was wondering if there's any case law on noise pollution, on air pollution, health, that's all under EPA.
Exactly. That is all, well, not all of it's under EPA. That's it. There's cases where someone's come in and tried to bring air pollution, for example, and the Wetlands Agency doesn't have any authority over air. So therefore, it's beyond its jurisdiction. So this commission would have to have, under its site plan standards, it doesn't have environmental considerations under its site plan standards if you go through the criteria that it reviews. But it does have standards in the part of the application process related to stormwater management and soil and erosion control. So it doesn't have anything about air pollution or, you know, and I frankly, I do not think that noise pollution it's not an environmental resource. You have to show harm to some kind of that's noise bothers people, but the natural resource has to be impaired. So typically it is things like air pollution, groundwater, pollution, other kinds of things like that, where an environmental resource is impacted is what the jurisdiction or what an intervention is about. But it has to be something that the agency has jurisdiction over.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, the EPA does regulate the decibels and of sound, so, and they definitely do the air.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard you guys talk too much about the air, but I have heard you talk about sound, so just throw that out there, but, the other thing is fine too, so.
Any other discussion? All right, then we'll have a vote, please. All those in favor of the intervenor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? None. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So that's all we need to do for now. Thank you, sir.
That's right. At some point, you need to give the interveners an opportunity to make their presentation on those issues, but it does not have to be tonight, as long as it's before the deadline of the process.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Cody,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Tom Cody. I'm an attorney at the firm of Robinson & Cole. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Ryan Companies U.S. Incorporated. Mr. Chairman, I do just want to ask you, before we get going with our presentation, a question about the agenda. Under the site plan review for this application, item A was legal counsel's opinion on the intervenor status, and you've just addressed that with your vote. And then B, questions by commission members, legal counsel's response, and intervenor response. So my question is the intervenor going to make a presentation at this time or not?
going by what I interpreted, that we were gonna put that off either this time or next time was open. But if it feel it needs to be done tonight, then by all means, we could have it done tonight. It's up to the attorney.
I think the issue is that we're getting very close to the end of the time frame for this application, and it's important to get the issues out so that they can be discussed.
So you want to hear them now? Is that what I'm
It doesn't have to be
gathering?
right at this moment, but this evening it
This
should
evening?
happen, this evening, I
If they're
think.
prepared, are they prepared?
I mean, it is on the
Mhm.
agenda, I'm just reacting to what's on the agenda. All right, so,
I'm just waiting for a response.
So I do have some documentation just to submit, but I would definitely like more time if possible.
As long as the commission can accommodate, within the deadline, so you can't make a decision yet on the site plan. So, if the applicant's presentation goes quickly and there's time tonight to start hearing from the intervener, by all means, maybe you should. But if it turns out there isn't enough time, because of the interplay with the wetlands statute, and you've got additional time than you might otherwise have, you could hear from them at the next meeting.
Can I comment, Keith? The other thought I had, because you are in the tight window, was I could submit to the town hall, in like 3 days or 4 days, so the applicant would have a chance to look at it, and you guys would have a chance to look at it. Up to you.
Knowledge here, so by all means, you guys discuss it, let me know what we gotta do.
fine, I mean, it's not a battle, just trying to create a fair exchange of information, that's all.
I don't want to do something wrong here, because I don't know if I've had too many intervener options here in the years I've been involved here, so just make sure we.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll just say, there's nothing really tricky, and as long as you're staying within the deadline, I mean, it's a site plan application, so it is one that gets automatically approved if you don't stay within your deadlines. So-
Right.
So you gotta stay within your deadlines, but now that the petition was filed, it's been recognized, if within the time frame of this commission's, proceeding, it just needs to afford the intervener an opportunity to make the presentation. I think the intervener's suggestion that she submit something, or that all three of them submit things in the next few days, so that the applicant, so that the applicant doesn't hear things for the first time at that next meeting when you don't have any,
Right.
have any deadline, is a good idea. But there is no technical procedural requirements of how this works right now, other than the fact that they need to be treated as a party, and they need to be able to present information on the issues the commission decided that they can during the regular proceeding of the application, as opposed to during the public comment.
All right, well, what I'm thinking is that before the end of the meeting, you present what you have, then you can proceed after that, submit a letter to staff to be dispersed to whoever needs to hear it, and you can add to it at that point. And then you can continue it at the next meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds fine. I actually just wanted, as my presentation, to submit some documents. I definitely have some documents that address runoff and stormwater, and then I could submit some next meeting too.
So you're not wanting to actually speak?
No, I don't need a big presentation. I don't
Okay.
want to take up the 65-day window.
That's fine.
Honestly.
That's fine, submit what you have, and then in 3 days, if you want to do more, and
So you can get it.
Great.
Oh, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and sorry it's not, it's small to the scope because I didn't know.
ma'am.
Well, that's what I meant to say. I think I said the intervener.
Interveners. Yeah.
For now, and anything that's not to scope, just you can cross it out.
Okay.
Okay. Are we okay with that then, everybody? And then now, for
Great.
presentation by the applicant.
Great, thank you again. So this evening, Mr. Chairman, what we wanted to do was to try to address all of the questions that we think are still on the table, that people have asked, commission members, members of the public, and if we can, get through all of them and address them to your satisfaction. And so what we've done is we've prepared a presentation that hits on 5 or 6 major issues that we believe have been the subject of questions. And very quickly, that order of issues and presenters would include Brad Griggs with Amazon to address the site selection process that Amazon went through relative to the project. Tim Underko and Mark Vertucci would address site design, sort of a recap of where we are with that, and Mr. Vertucci would address some of the final questions relating to traffic issues that were asked. We wanted to address fire protection. Chris Summers with HGI, who presented at the initial presentation, is back again to address some of the questions that have been asked. Questions have been asked about blasting. We have some specialists from the field, contractors that work in this field. They will speak to the blasting plan for the project. And then finally, our environmental and wetland scientist, Dean Gustafson, will address and provide an update as to the wetland permit application process that's underway with the Wetland Commission. So we do have a PowerPoint which is running now. Mr. Underko is going to sort of drive that. And I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Griggs from Amazon to just review the site selection process.
Good evening. Good evening. Appreciate your time this evening. I'm Brad Griggs. I lead economic development for Amazon in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Canada. Here tonight to talk about the site selection process that we underwent to identify this site as a prospective opportunity for our fulfillment center operations, as well as the prospective project benefits should the project move forward. If you want to. So with Amazon, from a site selection perspective, we start with our customers, and we want to focus on being able to meet the needs of our customer base throughout the New England region, specifically here in Connecticut. But this site also sits at a pivot point, with access both to New England as well as into the Northeast corridor. And so it fills a vital capacity requirement for us in this region to meet our customer needs with our first mile fulfillment operations that this facility would facilitate if it's brought forward. From there, we need to make sure that we can operate the building successfully, which comes to workforce availability. We study the workforce availability significantly throughout the region. That this site is able to facilitate significant workforce for our operations, and it's an underutilized workforce in the region that we want to tap into to bring and raise the economic floor through our comprehensive benefits, our competitive wages at over $23 an hour starting with comprehensive benefits, the same benefits that I have. That workforce availability is critical during our site selection process to make sure we can operate these buildings for a long period of time successfully to meet our customer needs. And then we get into the type of parcels that we're identifying, and that's where the zoning of this site became critical. What we're looking at from a zoning perspective is we need to be able to have, from a business planning perspective, a reliance on that zoning, that is an indication from the community that the way zoning works is it's an indication to companies like ourselves that this is a parcel that this is how the town wants that facility to be utilized. That's what this town will allow for these sites, and that's how this site is zoned for this type of use. So that's how we're working through our site selection process to make sure that the zoning aligns with our business planning purposes so that this facility can come online during the period of time that we need it to meet our customer needs. From there, we're looking at proximity to significant infrastructure. Obviously, this site sits right off of 395, which allows for easy access for both our trucks and employees to be able to access this site, with the trucks and personal vehicles for our employees being able to get to and from with easy access to 395. The adjacency to that being another contributing positive factor for this site in our site selection process. We're looking at over $200 million in investment. We don't take that lightly. We're looking at the creation of at least 500 new jobs as part of this project. Again, we don't take these things lightly as we're looking at sites to make sure that the communities we're going into, that the zoning indications allow us to see that as a property that we want to pursue to meet those needs. Beyond that, we're looking at putting in the time and effort of our experts, but we want to make sure that we are aligning with that process as we look at that site selection criteria and meeting the needs of our company. From a project benefits and overview standpoint, we talked about this when I was here last. This is a first mile robotics operation meant to facilitate, inventory and then packaging and distribution to the network throughout New England and the Northeast. It's, items that typically from an inventory standpoint fit in a airport, tote, an airport security bin. That's the size of the inventory products that are in this type of building. The orders are picked, packed, and shipped from this site. There are no, vans. There's not, that type of operation coming out of this building. It's trucks in with inventory and trucks out with palletized packages to go out into the network to be delivered at different types of facilities like the one in Plainfield. And so what we're looking at is trying to meet the needs of our customer base. As far as the project benefits, we talked about this last time. It's at least a facility that's going to be assessed at over $150 million. It's at least a $200 million investment, and I think that's conservative. That number will, once as we're finalizing our plan, that number will grow from an investment standpoint to include the robotics, the material handling equipment, the other fit outs that would go inside of that building to bring it online. As I mentioned, 500 full-time jobs. Again, that's a conservative floor for how, the life of this building. This building will employ many, more employees than that, but that is the baseline at least $23 an hour with comprehensive benefits starting day one. We're talking about over 200 construction jobs for a period of at least 18 to 24 months as this building is constructed. 216 acres of conservation area and a 76-acre on-site conservation easement is being proposed, and then significant infrastructure improvements that our team has talked about throughout this process. So I'll turn it over now to, unless you have questions on kind of our site selection process or what I've discussed here. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Broke the microphone before we started. Tim Underko, professional engineer with Langen. Was on the Zoom last time back with you to highlight some of the items we talked about on the 15th, and just wanted to give you an update on where we stand. No change to this plan from the last time we spoke. This shows our site plan with our access drives. And if you recall, last time we spoke at length about how the project now has a single access drive to Westcott Road. That was a function of correspondence and discussion with Connecticut DOT about driveway proximity to the on and off ramps of 395. And also, I spent some time last time talking about our coordination with the fire marshal on the configuration of that single access drive, in that we have two bridges that we are proposing as part of our site plan package and our submission to Inland Wetland Commission. We worked with the fire marshal to identify the clear cross-section of those bridges, and the technical drawings that we've submitted to the commission as well as to your peer reviewer reflect those conversations. So again, no change from our conversation last time. And to the chair, I believe we had some discussion last time about this section. I think we've reviewed it at least twice now, and we are back again, hopefully with the details sorted out with our discussion from last time. I believe there was some concern about the section through the building to the west across 395. We had proposed, per discussion, I believe back in May, about a planting buffer from the drive aisles that sit at the top of the retaining wall to provide additional noise and site buffering to this section as you look from the site to the west. When I presented last time, I had identified that we had a double row of trees. I believe last meeting you said the preference was a triple row with varying species and varying heights, so that as these evergreens grow, you continue to have regeneration and provide that buffer over the life of those plantings. So worked with our landscape architecture team. They are proposing a triple row buffer as discussed. That includes white spruce, white pine, Norway spruce, and Douglas fir. They are including white pine, but in limited quantities, and that's the kind of the tree of concern when you have evergreen buffers. As those grow, the lower branches and limbs kind of die off, and you're left with a kind of a stump at the bottom and evergreen at the top. The benefit of them is they are quick growing and quick establishing. So we do have some of those in to provide a lot of that initial screening, but the hope is that the mix of species provides a long-term barrier as discussed, and also incorporating a mix of plant heights from 6 feet to 14 feet. So you have some smaller, some larger as you plant that initial buffer. So we will update our landscape architecture drawings to include those revisions and any subsequent submissions, but was hoping that addressed some of the concerns that you had about the technical design of that cross section there.
Can you give me a second? I think, isn't that door supposed to be open?
So we have it shut right now just for the audio reverb and stuff. It's unlocked.
As long as
if
it's
somebody wants
legal.
to-
I just.
It's unlocked, so somebody can. Yep.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
No, okay. So that is all I had at this point on site plan updates. Just wanted to bring that back up, as I know it was a thing we were kind of collaborating on, and hopefully that meets your requests. I'm going to turn it over to.
What about the median on the right-of-way on the road? And
Yes, so we have met with the fire marshal. He does not want a raised median. He wants it to be painted intermediate line between the two inbound lanes. The fire code requires that a fire lane be 20 feet, and with our width from guardrail to guardrail, we have 42 feet. So we effectively have 2 fire lanes that would meet the code standard. So I do have a slide where we talk a little bit more about fire marshal comments, but the request was not a raised median, and the painted line as we had shown was the preference from an emergency response standpoint.
so if we have a high school, then it needs a secondary driveway access. If we have other projects in town that require secondary access, but your facility doesn't, when you have that many lineal feet in, without any alternate way in, if there's any accidents or any kind of obstructions, but that doesn't apply, I guess, in your case. So a truck gets sideways, crosses the median, I don't know, whatever, fuel spill, fire, it doesn't matter. I guess you can have a bulldozer on site so you can push it out of the way so you can get to the facility, or you're counting on the water tanks if there's any issues at the facility. It just seems that there's a big issue about this in the past with other projects, but it's not seemed to apply to yours.
I don't want to speak for the fire marshal on his review of other projects, but
The fire marshal has his issues, but
Yep.
it's up to both P and Z.
Yep, and the feedback that we received is because of the clear width, we are actually providing twice the necessary width to meet the fire lane egress
So-
standard at the state and federal level.
A 42-foot width.
Mhm.
Tractor trailers, ultimately, you got 70-foot parking spots. I don't know. The math doesn't add up.
Well, one of the discussions, again, I don't know if the fire marshal's here to provide feedback, but The width is no different than what they may experience on Westcott Road. His, I believe, and again, I hate to speak for the fire marshal, but.
But there's alternate ways to go to either
Yep,
way on the Westcott
understood.
Road.
And again, I don't want to speak for why he felt that this was appropriate, but the fact that we do have the clear width that is double the required fire lane made him comfortable with the ability to service the building and fight fires or respond to emergencies on site.
Go on.
Good evening. I'm Mark Fertucci. I'm a senior transportation engineer at Fuss & O'Neill, also a registered professional engineer. In Connecticut, we don't really have anything new on the traffic to present, but I did want to just briefly respond to the letter that we received on June 24th from the KB Ambulance Corps. They had a couple of recommendations that they made in this letter to help facilitate the safe access and egress of emergency vehicles to and from the site along Westcott Road. One of them was evaluation and implementation of an Opticom or emergency vehicle traffic signal preemption system. This is something that we typically do include in traffic signal design, and we're planning on including with the signals we have proposed in this project. As I had mentioned before, we're replacing the signal and upgrading the signal at the Gauthier 395 southbound off-ramp intersection, as well as proposing new signals at Knox and the 395 northbound ramp in the site driveway. So each of these signals would have an optical detector mounted to the span wire or the mast arm at each of the intersections, and those would be able to detect an emergency vehicle incoming. The emergency vehicles have the emitters on their dashboard, and then what happens is they it signals to the traffic signal to change the phase and turn it green as the vehicle approaches.
If the vehicles have it in theirs, if the ambulance, the paramedic vehicles, and the fire department has them in theirs.
Correct.
Will you supply them to them?
That's part of the system. So
I know it's
obviously
part of the system. Will you supply them to the ambulance, the paramedics, and the fire department so they can operate?
Typically, when we design these signals, I know if this were like a state project, they would reach out to the town. They would ask them if they want the emergency vehicle preemption or not, and the state or the person designing the signal would install the equipment that is on the mast arm or the span wire, and then the local jurisdiction would, because this would be to accommodate all traffic. This is not specific to just this project. It would be for all. These vehicles could use it at the signals to respond.
If they got it in their vehicles.
Yeah.
If I had it in my private vehicle, yeah, I can change the light.
If the town.
I'm asking, is Amazon going to supply it to the ambulances, the paramedic vehicle, and the fire department, or do those three companies have to go buy their own?
Typically, when a town purchases an emergency vehicle preemption
No,
system.
it's not, forget a town.
It's not, we're designing the off-site improvements.
So
we would design the signal and
So you still
equip the
have-
intersections such that if the town wants to
Hey.
implement a system which you don't have now, then they would, so these signals would be able to.
Right, they'll be up there. They'll be up there. And if we wanted, and the town does not supply ambulances, paramedic vehicles, or fire trucks at all in this area. Okay, so the fire district would have to pay for, you're saying the fire district would have to pay for our, to be installed on all our vehicles, all Davil's, or East Killenly, Danielson, whoever.
Yeah.
And same with the ambulances and same with the paramedic vehicles.
So, right, so typically the town does, but Amazon, the applicant here has said they would be willing to work with you on paying for that equipment, so.
I can work with them.
Yeah.
Will they pay for them? Yes or no? That's a simple question. You tell me yes or no. Will they pay for them?
Yes, they said they will.
Nope.
Okay. All right, so that was one. That was one comment. Another was reviewing the truck routing and the site access designed to minimize obstruction of critical response corridors. So, as I've mentioned, the truck routing and the truck turns through these intersections is something we have been looking at as part of the OSTA process, where they require us to submit turning vehicle movements throughout the entirety of the off-site improvements in the study area. So we have done that to verify that not only emergency vehicles but also the tractor trailer trucks can safely negotiate those turning movements. Also, they asked for consideration of roadway signal modifications intended to improve visibility and overall intersection safety. And again, as I've been presenting, as you see on the screen here, we are proposing extensive off-site improvements that will facilitate not only traffic to and from the site, but also emergency response vehicles. So the signal preemption is one thing. We're also widening the road. We're widening Westcott, as I've mentioned before, to the east of the 395 ramps to provide an additional lane. So there's an additional bypass capability there for emergency response, and we're not widening, but adding the striping for the third lane underneath the 395 overpass, again, providing another lane that could allow for bypass that is not there today. So just to summarize with respect to that letter, then we really don't have any issues with any of those recommendations, and we are either will or are in the process of incorporating those into our off-site improvement design. And we'll continue to evaluate and discuss those with OSTA as we continue through that process.
Question for you on the off-site improvements. Is there any town land or private land that has to be, an easement has to be required or rights to be granted for you to do any of those off-site improvements?
There's no, it's all in public right-of-way. It is within Westcott Road.
All
state right.
State right-of-way. Is there any town right-of-way issues?
No. There's no right-of-way takes from the town. It's all within the Westcott state right-of-way.
Any drainage easements, any other permissions you guys need to get to do any of those off-site improvements?
Not related to the off-site, no. Not at this time. We haven't, got through the full detailed design yet. We're still in the conceptual stage, so, we haven't looked fully at the drainage, but at this point, we do not anticipate any easements.
Even for your conceptual drainage?
At this point, no.
Okay.
No, we're not substantially widening the road through there. And the right-of-way is pretty wide as you get east of the 395 ramps.
So I have a question for, I guess, the engineers with this project. I know that you originally proposed 2 driveways, and the state DOT came in and said they only wanted 1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So are you concerned now that that might create potentially, because they did that, like a safety hazard if you were to have a jackknife tractor trailer that would prevent access in or out because you only have one road? Has there been thought into that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a better plan. It's consolidates all the access to one point. You don't have an intersection close to the 395 ramps. Everything's funneled in at one signal. The driveway, as Tim mentioned, is wide. It's 40 plus feet. Westcott Road today isn't even that wide. The on-ramps to 395 aren't that wide. So, it's you run the risk of having an emergency vehicle block any of those public roads at any time of the day. So I think with what we're providing, it's a nice wide width, which I can understand the fire marshal's been satisfied with that given how much space we have to work with. And there's additional space, clear zone, as Tim mentioned, beyond that 40 feet on the sides of the driveway as well.
So potentially, an emergency vehicle could drive off the driveway and have like a
I think
relative?
in an emergency situation, you know, they will get around it if they have to.
Because we just had a tractor trailer jackknife on
Yeah.
695 here, completely blocking off traffic heading east. That just happened like 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And I'm not, you know, it's less likely would happen in a situation like this because you're hopefully not driving 70 miles an hour, or the trucks aren't. But I don't know, it's something to think about, that they kind of changed the plan by having you eliminate one driveway. It kind of eliminates that option of bypassing a jackknife truck. But if you, yeah, I mean, if you're comfortable that that emergency vehicles can go around that in an emergency, I think we're okay, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yep.
You stated that you've been working on this for a long time, this traffic issue. Once the site was identified for, you know, a possible location for Amazon, how far back does that go? When did you guys first start working on this site?
From a traffic perspective? Or
No, no,
the whole thing?
Yeah, when was it
I can't-
identified?
I would have to defer to. No, I think he's talking about the whole project. You're talking about the whole project or just the?
Yeah, the
just
whole
traffic?
project. When did Amazon, you know, realize that this location was good for further development, you know?
Hey, good evening. Dustin Curran, Director of Real Estate Development for Ryan Companies. I don't have that information on when the site was selected. We can find that out
If you
and
would, I'd
report
appreciate
back.
it, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Going back to your engineer, you know, when you took a look at all of the 395 Westcott Road, all the rest of the access to this site, didn't it ever concern you that, you know, the southbound and northbound were access roads that were 6/10 of a mile long, and that all of this traffic would be funneled through there? And I'm sure that they're not as wide as Westcott Road, either one of those, you know. At one point, residents that are on the, and I guess it's the east side of the highway, in order to access the southern part, they actually go underneath that highway. And after numerous accidents, a stop sign was put in there. I think it was just a caution sign prior to that. There was a fatality on Westcott Road with a tractor trailer. The on-ramp from Route 6 going on to 395, you no sooner get off that ramp to go on to 395 and Knox Avenue is right there, very short distance. And then there's a stop sign immediately on Knox Avenue because of Lum Street coming into it. Didn't you have any pause when you looked at how massive this project was going to be when,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
wasn't there any concerns that this couldn't handle the amount of traffic that was going to be going to that facility?
yeah, I mean, that's why we do a traffic impact study, you know.
Yeah, and I looked at those figures.
We look at the impacts, we go out, we do traffic counts, we determine the existing volumes that are out there, which are overall very low in this area. And then we do the projection of traffic based on what's proposed, and we add the traffic in, and do a build condition analysis, and then compare the operations before and after. And, you know, at each of the intersections within the study area, and on the two roads you mentioned, Gauthier and Knox, the roads have the capacity to handle the additional traffic. They're operating at acceptable levels of service.
By
You know,
whose standards?
The Connecticut Department of Transportation sets level service standards. Typically, it's level service D.
You use those standards when you determine that?
Yeah. Level service D or better is typically acceptable. When you get to E to F, you get, higher delay, more driver frustration. Everything in this study area and with our offsite improvements on Westcott is at a C or better. So we're meeting the standard from the state. The state has looked at this. They were satisfied with our operations at these intersections and the offsite improvements we're proposing. Again, their major concern, and it was more of a safety and operational concern, was the proximity of the driveway that we had to the 395 ramp. They were extremely concerned about that. They did not like the two closely spaced signals, and that's where this single drive option came from there. But we've looked at every intersection in the study area. We analyzed additional intersections from that Ty and Bond, your peer reviewer, had recommended we look at. They all meet acceptable level of service. We've looked at sight lines at these intersections to ensure safety of operations, and we've looked at truck turning movements at every intersection throughout the study area as well, and are making the necessary modifications with our offsite improvements to ensure we are accommodating those truck turns from the tractor trailers and the emergency vehicles. So that's what we do in the traffic study. We evaluate, we ensure everything meets industry standard for safety and efficiency of operations. If it doesn't, then we propose offsite improvements, which is what we've done here on Westcott with the new signals and the additional turn lanes.
I find it hard to believe that the increase in traffic isn't a concern to the developers of this site. And I was a member of this group when this site was, there was a redesignation of what could be put there. And geez, I remember during those discussions where there was an access road proposed within the site itself, because whatever was to go in there was small, and there were going to be multi-units in there, not one big massive operation. The size of what's being proposed. And I think it alters that picture completely of whether or not those access roads can adequately handle the increase and not only passenger, because there's going to be a lot of employees, I understand, going in there, but the trucks alone. You've got 0.6 of a mile, and I didn't have my speedometer calibrator or anything. This is an old 2 Ford that I'm doing it with. The on-ramp off of 6, for example, onto Knox Avenue, 1.5, and what's the word I'm looking for, tenths of a mile. That's how close that distance is. And then with stop signs and residents on both sides, both of those roads, the distance of the borough itself, trucks gearing up and down road ranges, 12, 15 speeds. And, I took issue with your attorney, Mr. Cox, is it? Cody, excuse me. And I still find that the courts have not held that permitted use is a complete immunity from all review. And some of the factors that I find are, and it limits the review, but some of the factors is, traffic, noise, etc. And that's a major concern as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a major concern of the community as a whole. I just wish something more could be done. Reconfiguration, if that was a true four-way intersection off of 395, I'd have no problem. And I know the state and other areas have addressed issues like that. When they find that these off-on ramps are in the wrong position, they reconfigure them. Geez, I think there's a prime area right here where that would go a long way. Thank you for your patience.
Commissioner Serentopoulos?
Yes.
I got some information here. I just want to respond
Good.
back to your
Yeah, what is
question. Yep. So the site itself was identified as a potential in Q2 2025, and it was officially selected in April of 2025, and a purchase agreement was put in place in August of 2025. So that is the timeline related to the review and selection of
All right.
this site.
Good evening. My name is Chris Summers. I'm a registered professional engineer, fire protection, for the Harrington Group. Just here to go over what I've already spoke on back in May. I was also on the Zoom call, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. Just to outline what's going on with this building as far as a internal fire protection design scheme how that goes. Throughout, this building is obviously going to be protected with a robust fire suppression system. It's going to have a fully independent, and at this point, 2 independent 250,000 gallon water storage tanks with diesel fire pumps attached directly to them in a pump house. The building will be completely audio and visually fire alarm compliant, and FPA 72 compliant. And the sprinkler design is based on a full-scale fire testing at UL testing laboratory in Northbrook, Illinois. I'll get more onto that in a couple slides, but we do have a performance-based design for this building in reference to that full-scale fire testing that Amazon and we have performed, and I'll explain a little bit more then on that. You can go to the next one. To help address some of the lithium-ion battery questions that you guys have presented, first I just want to show a couple pictures of the type of robotics that you'll see at this facility. If you want to picture a little bit larger than a Roomba styled robot that's going to be, about this high off the floor, conveying material handling equipment and packages throughout the facility. Generally speaking, from a fire protection standpoint, from a lithium-ion fire protection standpoint, the battery is controlled by a battery management system. The battery management system will detect any number of irregularities or alarms that may come within each drive unit. The charging does happen throughout the building. There is no single building a single room for storage or recharging batteries. The battery management system will detect high temp, any irregularity, anything. It'll shut itself down, alert a team member to address, and any management of the batteries and the robots is done at an off-site facility. So it will not be packaged. It will not sit off to the side. They immediately send it out for repair and reuse, or they will dispose of if they find necessary. So from a fire protection design scheme, the saturation of the lithium ions throughout the facility, including the robust high-dense plastic and non-combustibility of the robot itself, it does fall within the S1 classification for a storage facility. So it's impossible for fire codes to cover every single type of building, with an ever-changing global society, new technologies, new everything. Code is limited to what it wants to do. So from a fire protection standpoint, Amazon's taken the approach of a robust, fully performance-based design based on full-scale fire testing, like I mentioned before. Basically, what we do is we build not completely this building, but a smaller scale of this, with inside their laboratory with 48-foot ceilings, the same steel members that we put in, the same sprinkler heads that we put in, and it's going to be run by a fire pump the same way that this fire pump the 2 fire pumps will be run on your site here. With that, code requires minimally to contain a fire long enough for the people to leave. In our full-scale fire testing for this facility and facilities like it across Connecticut, we have achieved full suppression with the type of sprinkler systems that we are designing, both with the diesel fire pump and the specific sprinkler that has been chosen for these facilities, which we feel is a conservatism because it is going to put that fire out and will allow immediate response to a fire in all situations, versus having to wait for a fire team to show up and help put out that fire. Obviously, things happen, and we've done double redundancy with the fire tanks, as we've deliberated or collaborated with the fire marshal. His concern was we just need more water, which I'm all for more water the better. So we've given you 4 full hours of water flow for this facility, and what that means is when I say fire flow, that's 2,000 GPM, 2,000 gallons per minute for 4 hours. Now, when one single sprinkler head goes off, you're getting anywhere from 25 to 60, depending on the specifics of it, but you're only getting about 50 to 60 at most gallons a minute. And when one head goes off, they don't all go off. It's just one head, usually at a time. In the full-scale fire testing, I think we achieved maximum 3 heads went off. And then from a 1.5 times stipulation from NFPA, we actually just double it, and we do our design based on a 6 head going off at once. That we also included the fire hoses for the fire department connections in our calculations for this, and we feel that it's an ultra conservative approach, and then you have a very robust sprinkler system, and now you have a dual redundancy. So if one tank went down, you'd still have the code minimum 2 hours, but we've given you a double. And we've done this at other facilities across the country, really. I mean, there's many facilities that have the dual tank redundancy, particularly in Waterbury. I know they have a dual tank redundancy as well on that building that's being built as well. Another part of the performance-based design is we do fire smoke modeling to allow for egress. Gives the tenants or the team members plenty of time to get out safely, as that's, my main focus is obviously the people inside the building. We use many conservatisms there as well. We have, if you could picture a big, this big warehouse with the robots in the center where the team members will not be, we put all 300 to 500 or whatever it is. It's about, I think we tripled the amount of tenants, and they have more than enough time to make a safe passage. So it's another conservatism that we have built into this performance-based design as well. Do you have any questions?
So, is there any other type of fire suppression other than the sprinkler heads with water? I'm just wondering, because there's a good chance of an electrical fire in a facility like this, right? And is it safe to use water to suppress that?
It's perfectly safe to use water in an electrical fire, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Just feedback, thanks. Remind me again, so your 2 tanks, they're connected to an independent system, water distribution system around the building for the fire hydrants, correct?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're gonna be attached to an independent, so everything after those 2 tanks is gonna be interconnected with a fire hydrant loop, and that's also connected directly to the fire risers inside the building. Yes.
Okay, and is there only one public hydrant? Did I read that right in one of the letters?
There will be 2. There'll be 1 at each city fed prior to the tanks, and that's for the fire department to potentially use to increase any pressures if they have any issues with the fire pumps. But in discussions with the fire marshal and also the fire chiefs this past week, they were okay with that, the fact that they actually don't need any water from Connecticut Water at this point, because the 2 tanks take care of that water issue that we're worried about.
Well, the two tanks take care of the initial suppression, the 2 hours, but if it does go longer and you have more than 3 heads or 6 heads in design, you get a full engulfment, then you would need water, correct?
Well, that's why we've provided the 4 hours for this facility. So one tank will take care of the first 2 hours, the other one can take care of the second.
All right, what is the fill rate back for those tanks? I mean, was
The-
what, over 24 hours?
No,
Is
the
that
fill
correct?
rate is, the first tank will be filled within 8 hours.
And that's the supply and pressure you
And
have
that's the
available on
supply-
the public line?
Yeah, correct. We've been working with CT Water on a booster station to allow for a little bit faster replenishment rate to get that 8-hour minimum. And talking with Fire Marshal Bouchard, he is holding us to that 8 hours, so, and we will meet it.
And you said you had a discussion with the fire departments this week?
Yeah, we met with the fire chiefs as well as the fire marshals, that's correct.
Has that been summarized somewhere as far as what
I don't
they've
have
agreed
a
to, or?
summary of it in front of me. I'm sure we can come up with some sort of minutes for that meeting, sure.
Just so we know who was there outside of, because that wasn't one of my requests last time, that we speak to the fire departments to make sure they were in support of
Yeah,
what
we
you guys
definitely
are
want
providing.
to, we definitely collaborate with fire marshals and fire chiefs as necessary to, here's the agenda right here. We can give it to them. But yeah, we had attendees were Danielson Fire Department, Dayville Fire Department, South Killingly Fire Department, KB Ambulance, Orient Heights Fire District, Dayville Fire District, South Killingly Fire District. Again, there's no names of this, so apologize. South Killingly Fire District, Town Fire Marshal.
Yep, and I assume we took meeting minutes?
I
Summary of the meeting, so we can at least
believe-
have that for the record?
Yeah, I believe so.
think so.
Yeah, can we get that submitted for the record as part of what was discussed and agreed to?
Yeah, so that was a meeting that was hosted by Fire Marshal Bouchard. We attended, and Fire Marshal Bouchard put together the agenda, invited the attendees. I'm not sure if there were official meeting minutes taken from that meeting. We did have a couple of the comment letters from Danielson, Dayville Fire District, KB Ambulance Corps, and then we did review also Fire Marshal Bouchard's comments that were all submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I think you should all have copies of those. We reviewed those and spoke specifically about the fire protection system as presented to you today.
Okay, I don't recall seeing a Dayville Fire District letter. Do we have that? Did you see that?
I personally seen it, but.
You may have seen it. The Dayville Fire letter is not in our package that I'm aware of, so.
Okay.
That's the first I'm hearing we talked to the fire departments. It's just something to make sure that we've addressed that, because again, the concern I have is you have an independent hydrant system on the lot. You do have, again, 2 publics, so one on the north side and the south side by the tanks, right?
Yeah, I believe it'll be the, northeast and southeast, correct.
Okay. Yep, and any information, again, so you're still in discussions with Connecticut Water regarding supply?
Yeah, so we are currently working with them on the improvements that are needed to bring the appropriate amount of flow and pressure to our site.
Because one of the concerns, obviously, and you've heard it here, is obviously the large-scale fires that have occurred at some of these facilities across the country, right? So people are concerned about that, and we just want to make sure that the fire department, we understand the fire marshals reviewed it from a code perspective, but from an actual firefighting perspective, the fire departments have seen it, reviewed it, agreed to it, and that there's adequate water supply available to this facility that can handle something beyond the immediate egress, which is the minimum standard.
Yep.
Right, 2 hours to get someone out of the building does not account for putting the fire out of the building.
Correct, and I think as a part of that meeting, Fire Marshal Bouchard can probably talk about the additional process that the fire departments would go for bringing in additional water if needed. They spoke in great detail on that. It's well beyond me, but they had some plans in place that they were discussing as far as how they would approach that.
And did you get into a higher level code review that's required for the building itself that's under the
That's
NFPA
under-
rules?
Yeah, that's going to be under the building code,
Yep.
or I'm sorry, the building permit.
Yes.
That is to come. So we
Yep.
have not submitted for building permit at this point. We have submitted to the state and are working with the state code officials as well as the state fire marshal in review of the performance-based design program. And so that's ongoing as well. But Fire Marshal Burchard has been a part of all of that, as well as the code official has been a part of that as well.
Okay, but under that code, I believe there's a report that's supposed to come out by the fire marshal, or there's even state fire marshal to justify and support that the adequate equipment and response time from the community is available.
I believe
Correct.
that's what's coming, yes.
That's correct.
And that's the new, is that 1750, the new code?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I do know that, that we are expecting that within the next couple of weeks, a response from them, positively.
Local or state, I'm sorry?
State. Yes,
State?
State, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Keith, one follow-up question. Is there a pumping station necessary for that facility?
There is. So we've received a will serve letter from Connecticut Water, dependent upon the coordination and collaboration of a pumping station that will provide the appropriate pressure and water flow for our site.
You're going to put one in? Is that
Yes,
it? Yeah.
yes.
I got one for you. In the package, the question was asked, how many public and how many private hydrants? And the response was a single, and you're saying there's now 2 public.
Yes, since that response letter, since I responded to that letter, we have increased it to 2 tanks. So that's where the secondary city-fed hydrant came from. We've also increased the number of hydrants supplied by the fire pumps. I believe it was 14 on my response.
Yes.
It'll go up to 16 because we're going to
16?
supply 2 going down the access road to the Westcott as well.
That's the 16 private hydrants.
There'll be 16 private hydrants. That's
That will
correct.
be fed by the
Correct.
250,000, and the fire marshal was okayed them being fed by.
They asked if we could do that.
So why are you putting a 8-inch, I do believe it was an 8-inch fire main around the building? If you're not gonna connect to, if you're connecting to the 250,000 gallon tank, why are you putting a 8-inch, or any fire main? I thought it was 8-inch, but I could be wrong. Why are you putting a fire main around the building?
The fire main is to supply the hydrants and the sprinkler systems.
Doesn't say that. It says it's gonna be supplied by the 250,000 gallon tank.
Yes, after the 250,000 gallon tank is a fire line. The water has to get from the tank to the hydrants and the sprinkler systems.
So
And it's
it's
being
gonna-
utilized by that exterior below grade
So that's not
fire
gonna
loop.
run from the road.
Okay, so the water from Westcott that's provided by CT Water will come up the drive
Yeah.
and enter into both tanks separately, both filling the water storage tanks.
Mhm.
After the water storage tanks, the fire pumps take suction from those tanks and push it through the fire loop going around the building to the fire hydrants and the sprinkler systems.
Okay, so, and the fire marshals has blessed that.
That is the only way to do that.
No, you can put up a pipe up and feed the hydrants from the pipe, from the main.
That's what we're doing.
No, you're feeding it from the tank to the pipe to the main. Why don't you just
Oh, you mean
feed
like directly,
Direct, yeah.
to, like from
like
the
most
water?
hydrants are fed direct.
Okay, yes, I see what you're saying. You do not have enough water pressure from your city. We would pull the water dry as soon as the fire pump turned on. So from an engineering standpoint, that we then add water to your supply, because I cannot create water. I can only store water. We push that water through your fire loop from that tank. The current Connecticut Water cannot supply enough water to supply probably more than 600 GPM at this site. We need more than that, so we're giving you more than that.
So you're taking water from the sprinklers and putting it on the hydrants. If the fire department decides to hit the hydrant, they're going to still take water from the sprinkler system.
It doesn't take water from the sprinkler system. It is in conjunction with the sprinkler system, and that is in our design. We have X number of GPM for sprinklers, plus X number of GPM for the fire hoses that they're gonna pull from those hydrants. That's, yes. So we have taken that into account. That is correct.
As long as the fire marshal, I've been out of it too long to know, but if the fire marshal blesses it, I have no problem with that, but I don't like that idea at all. You know, I don't like the idea of the hydrants coming off something that's gonna be fed to the sprinkler system. That's too, I thought it was too different. I don't know why you would have a fire main running around, and I thought it, look, remembering the plans, it was connected from the line coming from the road.
The line from the road does connect to the fire tank, and then from the
No,
fire.
not from the fire tank, from the fire main.
We have never shown anything coming directly from the water.
I'll have to revisit that this week.
Just like we've done across the country for buildings like this with the fire pumps and fire tanks, this is exactly how we do it for every
Okay.
single facility. So this is how you do it.
We will check with the fire marshal.
And just Tim Ondurko, professional engineer, Langen, continuing on with the discussion about the fire marshal. We talked a little bit about this earlier this evening about the curb-to-curb width and the clearance. Again, this is just at the bridge section. As you enter the site, we widen up to 4 lanes and head up the hill to the site. But this is and I believe to the chair's question, I can't see my cursor, so I'm pointing at nothing. We had a stripe median in the middle of the bridge as opposed to a raised median. Again, that was to allow us to have essentially double the required emergency vehicle width, where you need 20-foot clear, 13-foot 6 vertical. We've got that twice with this clear width. And one of the comments that we received from the fire marshal as we continue to look at on-site circulation and fire truck movements, he had a couple of requests that we incorporated into this plan showing you tonight that would be part of our record set. And that is call-outs for, if you're looking at the lower right-hand corner of the image, that is the bridge crossing where the associates pass over the truck exit. Wanted a call-out to identify a minimum of 15-foot clear, which we have. 13.6 is the required clearance per code, and we've got beyond that. He also requested that at the main and secondary guard shack that we identify that there are no overhead obstructions that would be less than 13-foot 6. That's not a problem because tractor trailers are 13-foot 6. So if a tractor trailer can pass under something, the emergency vehicles would be able to as well. He asked us to identify the location of the fire command center and where it exists in the building, and that is that little blue box in the bottom center of the building. We've added a call out. He wanted to make sure that his team knew when they entered the building where they would go to find that command center. And then he also asked us to look at fire truck movements into the 4 parking or drop-off areas along the left and right front of the building. He thought should they need to access the roof or do an aerial attack on the building, those lanes would be where they would position the vehicle or the fire truck, and he wanted to make sure that the movement into those areas and out of those areas was not obstructed by curbs and islands, and we were able to confirm that by running the template he provided and have clearance, again, without obstruction to hard improvements into each of those areas. So wanted to show you that here as we continued our discussion with the marshal on various site features related to his equipment movement. Next up, main drilling.
Mr. Chair, may I interject? Randy Burchard, Fire Marshal, is present tonight if you wanted to address any of those issues with him directly while he's here.
Good evening. Here's a lot of comments about things burning. What would you like to know?
I'll start it. You saw that they're connecting the water tanks to the hydrants.
Yes, sir.
And you're okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In coordination with Connecticut Water engineers in the design for the uphill battle going to Westcott Road, we looked at various options. I was sort of inquiring why there was not a 12-inch line going up to the facility in the proposed drawings for Connecticut Water. The reason for that is between an 8-inch and a 12-inch at that elevation with the pumping station would only result in a 4-gallon permitted increase. Obviously, cost per foot for 4 gallons really is not cost effective. When it goes into the facility, the elevation height from Main Street versus the top of the tank or tank base where they have it looks at a level of about 600 to, I think, 6.25 gallons per minute, 625 gallons per minute. The problem with that is sprinklers are the main cause of that, so you have to maintain the sprinklers in the building. One thing we did find out in the fire service with the Indiana fire with the Walmart was the fact that they shut the sprinkler system off, which caused failure in the fire suppression system. In talking with Amazon's fire protection, we looked at a 120,000 gallon extra tank on top of the 250. Then we, further discussion with Connecticut Water, we looked at raising it up to 250,000 gallons. The reason for the 250s is the industry standard in the town of Killenly would be Frito-Lay would be the closest facility with the size and impact scope of what this project is looking at. Frito-Lay operates on its own well system, not municipal, for their fire protection, and they run two 250,000 gallon tanks with 2 6-cylinder Cummins fire pumps. They just recently, 2 years ago, incorporated a municipal hydrant over by the railroad tracks by Tracy Road. So their facility was self-sufficient based on wells and that. Going back to the Amazon facility, at full capacity, to refill the tank in 8 hours is a code standard. By putting one large tank, they could not meet the 8-hour threshold to refill the tank. So that's why we have 2 separate tanks. Also in conversations with Connecticut Water, because of the flow rate, at full capacity with the bypass valve, Cardinal Drive will not have water during an event. Also, half the borough will be donating their bathtub water basically to the fire line. That's at full capacity. Obviously, all bets are off at that point. So the reason for the hydrant loop versus the sprinkle loop is there is an 8-inch main going up to the facility to supply the tank. There is a valve that will connect both tanks if needed, which will then connect to the hydrant. In the discussions with the fire chiefs, because it's 3 districts, the reason for that is you don't want to tap into the municipal water system during an event because you want to maintain the refill rate for the main tank and for the sprinkler systems to do its job effectively. The 250,000 gallon tank will supply to 14 hydrants on the hydrant loop, which will then be fed roughly by either a tanker shuttle or a third water supply. The third water supply was established basically about 2.6 miles away, which would be over by the Siri Wire building, which is the Plainfield's new water line system. So it's independent from the Danielson system that Connecticut Water is operating this facility at. So the flow rates will not interfere with the flow rates for the borough. So that sprinkler system is set as long as we don't touch it. The third water supply also incorporates on Katy Street, which is the river, which runs about 1,500 feet of hose down to the river at a minor elevation hike. So you can effectively have third and fourth water supplies for a tanker shuttle to set up within the 2-hour minimum of what the tank is designed for. In doing so, it's 2.6 miles from the fill site to the dump site at the entrance of Amazon. It's 2.1 miles on the way back. You're looking at roughly a 15 to an 18-minute round trip event if we were filling from 2 different water supplies at that fill site. So in reality, having the 250,000 gallons in the 14 hydrants, that will supply 2 sticks at 1,000 gallons a minute to do aerial operations if possible, while maintaining the sprinkler system design set forth by the engineers behind me. It gives the fire department enough time to set up a response capabilities to set up a water supply shuttle with rural tankers within a 2-hour window to effectively satisfy a 2,000 or 3,000 gallon per minute increase depending on the number of trucks. The Danielson and South Killeen Fire Departments achieved that over on the on-ramp of Upper Lum Street and Westcott Road some years back. We maintained 2,000 gallons per minute by operating through the borough system. So we know that elevation height is achievable. So that's how we came to the conclusion of having the hydrant system separate from the sprinkler system. To go back to the municipal system, Connecticut Water, when they installed the 8-inch line up Westcott Road to the pumping station and then up to Amazon's entrance, that facility will probably have a hydrant at the pumping station, which is required. Also, Connecticut Water gets to have the pick of public hydrants that they want to put along the way. Obviously, we all know there'll probably be 1 or 2. This effectively gives us other resources for, insurance purposes up Westcott Road, and also to stretch our rural capabilities up farther past in this facility's proposal. It is not intended to supply water to put the building out. So by separating that in the pre-plan models, in which the fire chiefs will do a pre-plan after the fact when the building is built, we'll come up with a phased plan of approach. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes. Do you remember when we did the water shuttle on Lum and Knox? What? You remember when we did the water shuttle? Were you around when we did the water shuttle at Lum and Knox?
That's the one I'm referring to, sir.
Right. Where did we get the water from?
We filled them from Killenly Avenue, sir, and then we filled them from over by the Danielson Fire Department. We filled from 2 fill sites.
And
we achieved 2,000 gallons per minute for that.
That's
It is a
right.
grid system, in the borough, so there's no residual loss in pressure when it comes to that because one end's feeding the other.
Okay.
So, sorry, follow up. Thank you for that, very informative. You mentioned a third water supply line from, I guess, a new line from wherever it was, Plainfield Water Supply, Deadhead somewhere. But you also mentioned access to a river, 1,500-foot river.
Yeah, at the end of Katy Street by Big Y and Surrey Wire, it has been a well-known water supply establishment. At the end of Katy Street, there's an open spot, usually where the state of Connecticut drops their fishing expo in the springtime for all the fish. And it's adequate for a front mount suction hose to draft from the river. Even on the low stages of the year, we can still get access from there.
Okay, so that's right. Okay, thank you. I didn't know if there's anything that need to be added to the site plan to give you access to that, but you're going to just come up the main drive, so you're just going to get it from river. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, my years of living in this town, I sort of know some avenues.
Okay, thank you.
There
Anything
was
else?
a question Brian had about the notes from the meeting.
Yep. Which notes would you like to talk about, sir?
You just want a copy on the records, on the notes of the
I mean,
meeting?
you testified here, it's on the record, so my intent there was to make sure that the fire department was involved in discussion, and any concerns they had were reflected in our meeting minutes. So I think what
Yep,
you conveyed.
So I can talk about the meeting. We did a meet and greet with Ryan Companies, with the 3 districts that are involved in this project, and the 3 fire chiefs that are going to be involved in this project, and also KB Ambulance. This was to check the box to address the citizens' concerns, in which I have heard, and then also the comments here that was submitted by Commissioner Hugo for his questions. In meeting we came up with a rough layout of what we're looking for. I addressed the same concerns that I just addressed tonight about the water supply. None of the chiefs had any comments on that. They thought it was a good idea. I can't speak for them personally, but we had no other questions. They spoke to Ryan Company about concerns that they had. Unfortunately, in this town, as much as I hate to say it, I'll probably get burned tomorrow for it, but the fire chiefs don't have much of a say with what goes on. I can take their consideration, but unfortunately, in this town, I'm the authority having jurisdiction. So I take their comments as a concern, and I issue all them comments. I talk to them about every phase of what's going on, and I take their comments and feedback very seriously.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Andy Ducor.
Good evening. My name is Andy Dufour. I'm a Regional Vice President for Main Drilling and Blasting, and I have with me my colleague Dave Falvey, who's a Divisional Manager for Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. And we're here, Ryan Company's invited us tonight to speak a little bit about the blasting. Just a little introduction about our company. We tell people we're from Main Drilling and Blasting, and immediately people think we came down from Maine tonight, but the reason we're called Main Drilling and Blasting is because we were founded in Gardner, Maine 60 years ago. So currently we do business from Maine to Miami. We have regional offices all up and down the East Coast. Our Connecticut office is in Middletown, and we have an office in Milford, Mass, which is those two offices are closest to this project here. So, yeah. We're just going to start with a little project snapshot and let everybody know what goes into the planning of a project like this from the blasting perspective. What we have up there is called a pre-blast survey drawing. And what that indicates is we take the bid documents and we compare the existing conditions to where the top of rock is through a geotechnical study. And then we compare that top of rock surface to the design elevations, and we come up with this rock cut areas. So that area of red to very light red, which almost looks white, are the areas where we anticipate blasting on this project. Go to the next slide. Once we understand where we have to do the blasting, then we got to rely back on code to make sure that we're in compliance when we get our permit. What code dictates is where we have to do pre-blast surveys. And what that says is we need to survey any existing structures within 250 feet of the closest loaded borehole on the project. And that pre-blast survey just documents the existing condition of those structures. That red line up there represents that 250-foot offset from the closest loaded boreholes. What this project has elected to do is go above and beyond that, and they're requiring that we do pre-blast surveys within 1,500 feet of the closest loaded borehole. And that yellow line you can see there, that represents that 1,500-foot offset from the closest loaded borehole on this project. Moving on, we've heard a little bit about environmental concerns tonight. So we're not here tonight to bolster what we can do and how we do it. It's more of what has been done and where are explosives very commonly used in everyday life. What this project represents was the Abington Rockland Reservoir. If you look at the two pictures there, the one on the top, you can see the project under construction. This reservoir was being expanded, so over the course of 3 years, more than 900,000 pounds of explosives were used. And while that was happening, that existing reservoir was in use. And if you look closely up there, you can see actually some blasting mats and a crusher on that site. And then the bottom picture just represents, if you went to Google Earth today, what that would look like. And so it greatly expanded that reservoir while the original reservoir was in use. And then that little document on the right is just something that the Institute of Makers of Explosives, who's, once again, that's not through our company, but someone in the industry, it's called Blasting Best Practices. And that provides a guideline of how we do our work to ensure that we are not having any detrimental environmental impacts. And we heard some chemical names today. One of them was perchlorates. I don't remember the other two, but perchlorates is a real chemical. I'm not saying any aren't, but that has been an issue in the past in explosives. And our company does not use any perchlorates in their explosives. The other issue that is common is free-flowing ANFO. So ANFO is ammonium nitrate fuel oil. No free-flowing ANFO would be used on this project. Everything would be encapsulated in prill and emulsions, and to make sure that there was no detrimental impact to the environment. So. And furthermore, a full comprehensive blasting plan would be submitted for the project, and within that blasting plan, there would be a full library of safety data sheets for all the product we use. So that would get reviewed in the approval process for the project. So. And we're heavily regulated, and this slide is just an example of that. So, blasting is governed by federal, state, and local requirements. Project-specific permit conditions and local official coordination control how the work is executed. So federal oversight includes the ATF, that's for our explosives, the DOT, that's when we're hauling explosives over the road, OSHA and MSHA, those are safety requirements. So more specifically, Connecticut law requires licensing and written permits for storage, transportation, and use of explosives. So local fire marshal authority coordination is part of the permitting process. And then shot records, notifications, safety controls, and monitoring records are maintained for accountability. And more specifically here, in February of this year, our company successfully completed a project at 44 Red Oak Road in Killington, Connecticut. So the work was performed within a residential neighborhood and required blasting 120 feet from existing homes and was completed safely and successfully. So, and Dave, do you want to talk to what that permit process entails?
Sure, and just to correct you, Andy, that was actually in Killingly. We, not Killington.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Vermont. So this was a small residential project, and the neighbors were concerned. Obviously, nobody understands what we do. So when we came in, we went out for the pre-blast inspections, which they all took us up on. At that point, we can go in and apply for the permit, and that's through the fire marshal. So we give him all the documentation he needs, and then we'll go out and we'll actually set up monitors on those houses that are closest to the blast areas, and that'll actually bring us right into our next slide. So these are our report cards. They provide documentation of air overpressure as well as ground vibration during each blast. On this project, the last project that was on the slide in Red Oak Drive, we set up monitors on both sides of the blast at the closest houses. For a project of this side, we would anticipate we would set up anywhere between 4 and 8, and move them around the site wherever the closest are. And like I said, if there's ever any issues of blast damage or everything like this, this is a report that we have.
Yeah.
And lastly, nobody likes surprises, and everybody's concerned about blasting, especially if you're unfamiliar with it. So we do offer a notification list. It's call, text, or email. Typically, we will send out a notice 1 hour before the blast. And if you'd like to be added to the call list, there's our phone number. It's 860-242-7419. We do that standard for every project, not just this one.
That's it.
Thank you.
Any questions from anybody? Good.
Just, sorry, got a question. Just, you guys, on your pre-blast survey, you guys are looking at structural issues only, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, folks. Dean Gustafson, I'm Director of Environmental Services with All Points Technology, Waterford, Connecticut. I'm also a professional soil scientist and senior wetland scientist. So just wanted to give you just a brief update of where the project sits with respect to wetland regulatory requirements. As the Commission is aware, the Killingly Inland Wetland Commission closed a public hearing a couple of weeks ago. And we expect them to deliberate and provide a vote at their next meeting next Monday. So we've submitted a wealth of information to that commission with respect to the project's impacts to wetland resources, the avoidance and minimization measures that the project has integrated into the overall design, as well as a comprehensive mitigation plan to mitigate for any unavoidable resource impacts. The project is only resulting in impacts to 4 highly seasonal, small isolated wetland systems within the interior of the site. Those wetland systems provide minimal function and value, and as part of the overall project, we've avoided impacts to some of the highest functioning valuable wetland resources, as well as vernal pool resources and stream systems on the project site. That's been accomplished through two large span bridge structures that'll also maintain connectivity between nearby wetland and upland habitats to allow for movement of various amphibians and reptiles. They're utilizing those nearby vernal pools and wetland systems. And we've also incorporated other mitigation and conservation measures, both during construction and through operation of the facility, to minimize impacts to those wetland-dependent species. I will note that the site has no state-listed species polygons from the Natural Diversity Database, either on the or near the project site. So we're not impacting any rare species with this project. And we are also have addressed successfully all of the town's peer review comments with respect to the wetland application. I will make note that the mitigation plan that we're providing has many different layers and components to it. It's a very comprehensive plan that includes both wetland creation and restoration of approximately 1 acres of wetland habitat that satisfies, more than satisfies the town's policy of a 1-to-1 mitigation. We're at approximately 1.42 to 1. In addition to that, we also have enhancements to the upland review area or the wetland buffers. We're providing a pollinator habitat enhancement area of almost 4 acres. We're also addressing invasive species management issues, both during construction and post-construction. And during construction, we have a vernal pool wildlife protection plan that will be implemented throughout the duration of the proposed construction schedule. And as dovetailed as part of that, we do have a robust compliance monitoring program, both during construction and then for a minimum of 5 years post-construction, to ensure that there's no alteration of wetland resources beyond what we're asking for a permit for, and also to ensure that the mitigation plan that's being proposed ends up successful. And we do have industry standard success standards attached to those requirements, and that's what we'll use as a measure of success. If for some reason those mitigation areas aren't achieving all of those success standards, the mitigation period will be extended beyond the 5-year period until those success standards are met. So that's just a quick summary. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will just make one point of clarification with respect to some information regarding the project's proximity to the aquifer protection areas that are in the region. So the distance that was provided at 5.1 miles to the nearest aquifer protection area, which is the Hopkins APA, is a correct statement. It's correct because the site is subject to flow characteristics under existing and proposed conditions, and under proposed conditions, we're not changing the existing flow characteristics of leaving the site. So water leaving the site would have to flow through, in this particular reference, the Hopkins APA would have to flow through the Mashantuck Brook. So when you follow that linear path through the brook, as it intersects kind of the eastern and southeastern corner of the Hopkins APA, that distance is 5.1 miles. Now, as the crow flies, we're much closer. We're approximately about 1,100 linear feet north at the most northern part of the project site. But water doesn't jump over a hill. It follows the natural path. And so there's just a small portion of the site that actually flows through that watershed that feeds the Hopkins APA. And that's just the very easternmost side of the project site. The majority of the project site flows directly to the west, mainly through Davis Brook, which does not flow into any APA area. It flows eventually to 5 Mile River, south of the Hopkins, and then also north of the Brooklyn APA, which is located about 2,200 linear feet south of the project site. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I provided that clarification 2 weeks ago at the wetland hearing, so I just wanted to pass along that information so the record's clear. I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Great, thank you, folks.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, we had to kind of put a placeholder into our presentation for whether your third-party peer reviewer, Ty and Bond, would want to present as to the wrap-up of their review of the application. Does that sound good? Then I would invite them to come up and to present their findings.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Andrew White, licensed professional engineer with Ty and Bond, and with me tonight is Alan Cloutier, who's a senior transportation engineer from Ty and Bond as well. You have in front of you our report from June 9th of this year that had reviewed all the comments that we had received to date. For the date of this meeting, we have not received additional information to add to that record. At the end of the previous meeting, there were comments from the commission regarding the memo from Langen Engineers dated May 7th, 2026, specifically their items addressing performance standards, item 9, 14, and 15. So item 9 was to address the fueling on site, to not have any permanent fueling, that it was only mobile, and that we had recommendations that their response had a partial response to you, and that they needed to consider construction truck traffic, equipment, mobile filling, and fuel spill response plan. We had detailed that in our memo, as well as provided that as a possible condition of approval if you chose to go that route, or if you chose to request that information as part of the record. Additional to that, item 14 was for the geological soundings and borings to determine drainage packages or drainage patterns. We had provided essentially a summary of all of the information that we had received from Langen. They had done the geotechnical review, they had identified bedrock, comparing that with their boring data and where they had wetlands, as we did review the wetlands package for the Inland Wetlands Commission. Their findings of groundwater lined up with their wetlands assessment of poorly draining soil, which was contributing to wetlands 17, 18, and 25, which are being under consideration for the Inland Wetlands Commission to be removed as part of the project. We felt that all the materials there had provided information for what was requested as part of your performance standard of the geological information. Item 15, this is paired with the previous presentation you just heard on the blasting for the site. And this was geotechnical investigations, but specifically a statement and supporting documentation regarding potential impact, if any, of any change in surface or groundwater levels or water quality that may be caused by the proposed activities, including impacts on private wells and wetland habitats. Based on the information that had been presented to you, we still feel that there was not a clear indication in the materials identifying the surrounding private wells. They did not identify the nearby wells and did not provide distances from the blasting activities to those wells. There was a lot of inference from the materials on how groundwater would be affected, but not expressly consolidated in a statement. But looking through the materials plans, in reviewing their information, it seems that groundwater would be affected for the shallow bedrock as they're blasting this area, particularly the east and west, that groundwater would follow the patterns of that, the blasting and development, particularly underneath the free draining materials that would be below their pavement structures, and then going to their ultimate outfalls for stormwater, which has been documented in their drainage reports and would follow that natural topography for at least the groundwater near the surface. So that was pretty much the conclusion of where we ended up with the civil. I'd like to turn it over to Alan. He can discuss the traffic implications.
Good evening, everybody. So based on some of the questions I was hearing earlier, I thought that I'd probably give a quick little summary of the traffic, kind of, stepping back a few steps. And I haven't given any presentations in the past. I promise I'll be brief. It's kind of warm in here. So we were responsible for reviewing the initial traffic impact study and some of the follow-up material that was provided, usually in response to a lot of the comments that we had. Before even kind of getting into some of that, I kind of want to step back a little bit as far as what is in a traffic study, what are we doing, and especially why it applies to here, because this is a little bit unique of a project. So a lot of the traffic study is really looking at the capacity. So existing capacity, how much are you, what's the future without the project? What's the future with the project? Are you causing significant impacts of delay to people that are driving on the road or on the road? And then if so, how do you mitigate it? Are you adding lanes, adding turn lanes, adding traffic signals, what have you? So they completed the initial traffic impact study, and overall it was done accurately, reviewed it for accurateness, but we also have comments. Usually, there's maybe some tweaks we want, some concerns we had. And so a few of the concerns that we had, we mentioned the study area. We wanted it to look a little further, because before it was really focused on the ramps. But this site is generating a good amount of traffic, so we really made them look essentially in every direction, to the east, to the west, to the south. And they did look at those intersections. We were concerned about the pavement, mostly because of the number of trucks coming to the site. Generally, trucks are what cause wearing on roadways. Cars are why you need the extra lanes. Trucks are why you need the extra pavement thickness. So we were concerned, especially on Westcott Road, of just analyzing it. Didn't know if it would be a problem. You really kind of need to essentially, dig a hole to kind of find out what you're dealing with out there. We had a real concern about the closely spaced new signalized intersections. Things that usually, it's tough to get things to operate well when you don't have much room in between. So their initial site drive, it was so close to the on-ramp. We were concerned about how that was going to operate. And then we had identified a lot of smaller improvements, striping here or there, or some tweaks to some of their off-site improvements. So we submitted those comments. We got back a lot of responses, and most of the stuff was addressed. So they added the study area intersections, and they found that it did have enough capacity. And that's the one thing kind of unique with this site is the existing volumes along Westcott Road are very low. So although this project does generate a good amount of traffic, in fact, I put in table 1 into our review. I kind of made my own table about what is the traffic volumes at each intersection, how much are they going to go up, and what the percentage increase is. Just because sometimes you're dealing with a very small percentage, but things can already be over capacity. It's just another way to look at it rather than just looking at the total delay. So from a percentage standpoint and from a total volume standpoint, these intersections have a significant amount of growth. However, since the volumes are so low at the beginning, from a capacity standpoint, they're going to still operate at adequate levels of service. As Mr. Valletta mentioned earlier, they're all level service, D and above, which is kind of the report card we do. A through D is usually acceptable. Kind of where it might differ from report card, because I know I wouldn't be too happy if my kid came home with a C or D, but for this we're usually okay with that. And a lot of that just on the basis of we have really low volumes existing wise. So from a delay standpoint, you're not going to have backups or gridlock out there because of this project. Some of the, more updated information that came, they have consolidated to a single driveway, which we do think is an improvement, especially because not so much that it's just one, it's that it's further away from the ramp. That's kind of key. We still had some issues with some of the design of the signal, so that's kind of stuff that I think will have to be worked out, especially with, OSTA being the owner of the roadway. And usually that kind of is an iterative process anyway. It's usually your first few iterations of design as you're saying, no, let's change this configuration of the signals so they could be seen better. That's still kind of outstanding, but it's not kind of to be expected. With that, do you have any questions for me?
John? Any questions?
I didn't hear anything about the access roads. Did you look at those?
Well, as far as whether there's two access roads or one, that one I would definitely defer to fire chief or fire marshal, because they look at things a little bit differently than I would. I mean, we do look at safety, but usually we're looking at more at safety of the roadway. Are people getting into crashes, collisions? A lot of times, actually, secondary access. Sometimes not even access that people can use. A lot of times it's gated for some of these developments. It's only open, if they need it for whatever reason. So I would completely defer to them because they would, I guess, have a better idea of why they would need that secondary access. The road is pretty wide. So as far as generally designing a roadway so that people can get by a disabled vehicle, usually you want 20 feet. To be able to get by. Again, that's more of a disabled vehicle, not a jackknife tractor trailer. I mean, trailers are probably about 53 feet long usually, so if they were going across, they're going to block everything. But as far as getting by normal disabled vehicles, it would be wide enough for that. But I think they would have a better understanding or reasoning about why they need that secondary access to begin with. What are they trying to avoid or...
You misunderstood me. I was
Okay.
referring to the access roads coming up from the south and heading
sorry.
south.
I completely misunderstood you.
You did, yeah. And I think there's a major increase in truck traffic on, and I'll refer to them as city streets. They're not more than that. They're certainly not as wide as Route 12.
Yeah.
There's residences on both sides, going right through the community, noise, congestion, safety, and I know that, again, that same issue of when a site has been designated, you can't question its designation, but look at, I think when that site was designated in its present state, nobody anticipated something the size of this going in there, and the thought was that multi-units would be going in there, smaller buildings, way less traffic, and this is a major increase, and it's going to have a major effect on people living in that area, in congestion, noise, and everything else. You didn't find that alarming, the amount of traffic that's...
Well, I guess as far as, I think a lot of when I try to put together a peer review, I want to give you guys as much information as possible because you guys have difficult decisions to make. So that's kind of why I put together this table one, which has a little bit of a breakdown to kind of see what increase we're dealing with. As far as congestion, just because sometimes when you're talking congestion, you're talking about, are you delayed? Are you able to get through? That's usually, in a way, the focus of a traffic impact study. And in a way, maybe you could say it's a shortcoming, is that we focus so much on capacity and, are you delayed? Are you not delayed? Whereas in reality, I mean, yeah, if you are a resident of a road, you might be thinking of a lot more than just, am I delayed? You're seeing traffic, you're, hearing traffic, and what have you. And that just tends to not be what our you know, what the guidelines say you have to study as far as that traffic impact study. I mean, even when I mentioned the pavement study, that's usually not part of it either. That's more just, hey, I've dealt with enough of these facilities that have a lot of trucks. Maybe we should look at that. So as far as numbers wise, I can give you kind of numbers. So this is from that table 1 that I gave. So for instance, I looked at by intersection, right? So since you kind of mentioned that neighborhood, the intersection of the exit 39 on ramp at Knox Avenue, not sure if I'm pronouncing that, Laham
that's
Street
right.
Extension. So at that particular location, so in the morning, you had about 107 vehicles that are going through that intersection. With this project, you're gonna have 285. So that's an increase of about 178 vehicles per hour. It's a 166% increase, so it's a little bit more than double. Now, those numbers are generally low, so we don't have, again, congestion. You're not going to have delay. You're not going to have a problem driving through there. Because the existing volumes are so low, will you see people? Will you hear people? Absolutely. To kind of put that in a perspective that sometimes is easier to visualize. Sometimes I'll take it, on a per hour standpoint. Well, what does that look like? How can I visualize that? So 178 vehicles, that's about 1 every 20 seconds, I believe. So 1 additional vehicle every 20 seconds. Just, if you were standing at that intersection, that's about what you're going to see for an increase. Well, those total vehicles. So a portion of them are tractor trailers, but, that's kind of new traffic. So again, I'm just kind of laying out the numbers, laying out the facts. I'm not making a decision, but that's what people will see. And obviously at some locations, especially, like at, when you get closer to the site where you got Westcott Road and 135 northbound, the percentage isn't necessarily higher, but the number of vehicles are significantly higher increase. Still, Westcott Road isn't the busiest road, so the analysis all comes back and it says that we have adequate levels of service. So that's just laying out all the facts or whatever.
I don't agree with you one bit. The study of March 19th, 2025, and this is off the traffic report, had 4,037 vehicles for a 24-hour period. March 20th of 2025 had a volume of 4,049 vehicles for a 24-hour period in that area of Westcott. So I asked the question, they do it for the peak hours. I said, what about the other 22 hours? So the answer I got was there will be expected generated of 3,900 trips per day. 90% will be passenger vehicles, and the majority of the vehicle increase will be confined to a 1,000 feet segment of Westcott, between the intersection of Garthia, 395, the Stern Street, Reynolds, High Side View. Well, 3,900. If you take 90%, if you take 10%, I'm taking as the trucks. That's 390.
Mm-hmm.
So to say we're going from 4,000, we're doubling the volume. This will double the volume in a 24-hour period in that area. You got to go. You should go ride that road during the day, and sometimes it's tough. And to say it's only going to be 1,000 feet within. How can you? There's not enough houses in 1,000 feet from that site on Westcott that can supply this building. So I don't know how they can figure out of the 3,900 will only be a segment of 1,000 feet. Well, people will drive down to all the way into Danielson, and people, yes, they will take 395 and they'll take on Garthia and stuff, but they'll go the other way too. So to say that volumes is not, you can easily say the volume's not there, it doubles.
Yeah, generally, at a lot of these locations, closer to the site, it is roughly gonna kind of double what's the current I mean, it varies a little bit, location by
but-
location, and it's not my study, just to make that clear.
No?
We're just
No,
reviewing it
this
for the
ain't
town.
mine either, but I just asked the question. This is their, their study.
Yeah.
I just like to know, can those road handle 390 trucks, not including the peak hours, so we'll say 400 trucks a day? I don't know if, can Westcott and Gothier handle, or, I mean Knox, I'm sorry. Westcott's a state road and Gothier is a state. Can Knox handle?
Well, I guess we're kind of asking a couple things, right?
Yep.
So, and there's multiple ways to look at it, okay? So from a capacity standpoint, like, can you actually process them? Yes. From a pavement standpoint, we don't know. And as they're kind of very different as far as the trucks too, because, so from a capacity standpoint, a truck doesn't really, it's not, I guess it's like a big car, but it's not drastically different. From a pavement standpoint, a heavy vehicle is completely different than an automobile. And from if I'm a resident and I got this thing driving by me, I definitely, hear one more, see one a lot more than a vehicle. So I wouldn't be looking at them different, but that's why I'm just saying there's kind of different capacities. So generally the findings are, we're about doubling the existing traffic.
Yeah.
We just happen to have such low traffic out there right now.
Go stand or go sit in the parking lot and watch the traffic on that road. You wouldn't say it's low. I've been on that road. I guide every day, just about. I take that road.
Yeah.
I like to stop at the Dunkin' Donuts, but that's beside, and trying to get out of that Dunkin' Donuts can take a time.
Yeah.
So, to say it's low, I don't agree. I don't agree. It's gonna put a lot more volume in that area.
And a ton of diesel exhaust.
Maybe the study that you conducted, doesn't include that. But these specific circumstances are what warrants consideration from the administrative job that we do.
Absolutely.
And it's an issue, a big
Yeah.
issue. And I would hope that this review that's going to be done by the state, and I had the thing here somewhere. Anyway, they'll take all those things into consideration when they look at this. I mean, this isn't a cloverleaf intersection. We've got these access roads, 0.6 of a mile on each side, going south, coming from the south, interrupting the whole borough.
Yeah,
And I wish something could be done about it.
Okay.
Any other questions from Commissioner? Yeah.
So I notice there's still several items that say tie and bond response. Response noted, we will review this material when it is provided and provide further response. So that's up to date. That's up to date, correct? All these notes.
That is up to date. So what we did, so that it would all be in the record, is every response that the applicant had provided, we had added it after our comment, and then we added our subsequent comments, and then their comments after that. So you still see in here our initial comments as well. So this one letter gives you a full and complete timeline of every comment and every response.
So we're getting near the end of the time limit on this, and we still are missing several items.
I don't think too much is missing. There's still the design of the new driveway, that new signalized intersection, that still needs to be fleshed out a bit more, which is not too surprising. But that is not close to being a final design yet. I don't know if there was anything else.
Well, I've got them highlighted here, so it's item 23. Is that up to date? We will review this material when it's provided and provide further response. And then 24, same thing.
So yes, under item 23, where it says, we will review this material, underneath that, there's a tie and bond follow-up response in bold. That
Okay.
says this comment has been satisfactorily addressed. So the bold comments are the most recent comments. And so for our, I believe, 58 or so comments, those were all addressed. The new items, which was item 9, 14, and 15 from the Langen memo, we had provided responses. We had also provided, under the recommended conditions of approval, a way to incorporate that if you so choose, or you could require that of the applicant while the record is open.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Brian? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Sir?
do we have to set a time, or?
No, I'm done at 10. I'm leaving at 10.
Can I got nine questions that I like to ask. Well, just the numbers on the memo of dated June 15th. That,
Just leave us a couple minutes.
so if I can go through these real quick. Well, I can go through them real quick. I'll do the first one last. Item number, on the memo dated June 15th. Hello? Memo dated June 15th.
I was reaching for my copy of it.
Okay. Item number 4. Can Amazon make a procedure of how they will clear up the road to allow emergency apparatus in case of different incidents happens on the driveway? How will, I'd like to know that Amazon, they got a year to work on it, how they will handle different situations that exist on that roadway, so it would be clear for emergency vehicles.
Which number?
4. On Amazon questions, number 4. About the gates, and that was, one of the comments tonight was, on the site questions, on number 4, on sheet CS 103 and 104, from the parking area to the sidewalk, every other area has a pedestrian crosswalk painted. And I don't know why it's every other one. Why not every one? I'd like to see a pedestrian crosswalks on everything from the parking areas to the sidewalks. Question number, on the site, question number 6 about the generator. This is, can you supply information on the generator on page CU 103? And also, you mentioned there's 2 augers. I just couldn't find them. I don't know what sheets they're on. Can you let me know what sheet the augers are on, the drawing, so I can look at them? And any information you can supply on them? Site question on 7, 9, and 10. I don't agree with your answers at all, so can you relook at those?
Site questions number 7, signs, the size, location, and type of signs.
Yep.
Well,
You say our regulations say you will supply the information on the sign.
and we did.
No, you didn't. I don't see it. You pointed out to me and I'll accept it, but
Fine.
it's not here. It's not on your response here. It says, you know, the regulation requires the building zone permit to obtain the zoning enforcement officer before any signs can be installed. You didn't,
The
you said there's
signs-
gonna be a sign in front.
I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. When Langen prepared the last set of plan revisions,
Yeah.
they included in that a notation as to where the monument, there'll be one monument sign, which we have said.
Yeah.
The notation is shown on the site plan. And the wall signs are shown on the elevation.
Okay, can you just tell me what sheet so I can check it? And what's the sign, please?
And we also did a separate memo that outlined in more detail the description of that signage, its size, et cetera.
I don't know if anybody else seen it, but I haven't seen it.
We submitted it a month ago. So we'll clarify that and.
It's in the plan set. The plan set that, the hard copy that you had.
The
reviewed.
sign,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
if I
It's
come
towards the
down,
very back of the plan set, I believe, is all the architecturals and some of the
Okay.
reference to the signs. There's 94 sheets in the
Yeah.
plan set, so.
And I guess the final thought on signage is that as the regulations require, any applicant has to come back to the zoning enforcement officer and get a zoning permit to show that what the sign permit that you're getting is consistent with the zoning regulations. So there is that final sort of check.
And for clarification, it's architectural drawing A301. That shows the building signage.
show the location.
Tim Undergo with Langen. Sorry.
Okay, I'll check that.
Okay, so after number 7,
Number 9,
here, this is the truck delivery route will be indicated by signage, pavement marking, or other methods. Tim, do you want to address that, please?
Yeah, as part of the site package, we would have lane delineation, call-outs for guard shacks. We can certainly provide that if you needed more detail than what was included in the site plan package. That typically gets into the nuance of the 2 square foot signs that might be at individual lanes, but don't necessarily manage kind of full site traffic. But if there was a need for additional information, I'd be happy to provide it to you.
well, the regulation says the truck delivery routes will be indicated by signage, pavement markings, and other methods.
And they will be, yes.
Wait a minute, will be?
If the facility is constructed, there will be signage, pavement markings, or other methods to
Why ain't they
identify
on
the truck.
drawing? How do I know that?
And that was my point. We have a site signage package. We typically include things like stop signs, handicap signs.
Yeah,
And if the desire was to see even the smaller wayfinding signs, we could absolutely provide that information to you
it
to
should be on
review.
the site, on the drawings you give us.
Okay.
The truck route, the passengers, that routing should be on the sign,
Yep.
on the
And
drawings you give us.
And we have included the truck movement plans that show the route of those trucks into and out of the site. But I can also provide supplemental information that includes any additional wayfinding or pavement markings that may be constructed.
Please do.
You got it.
Number 10? You didn't follow up thing on the sidewalks.
Tim, do you want to address that?
Sure, and
Right.
what is the
The answer is, how wide's the sidewalks, 5 inch?
5 feet minimum beyond the 36 inches or 30 inches required by the ADA standards?
And our regulation says? The answer is 6. So you're wrong. So please correct it.
Okay.
You gotta follow our regs.
And which, if you have it handy, do you have
Sure.
the site standards section that you're pointing to?
Yeah,
That is
for-
private sidewalks and not public sidewalks, correct?
It says all paved way shall be a minimum of 6 feet in width.
I mean, if you want. it's up to
The
you.
sidewalks are
Motion,
paved
if
way.
it passes, it passes.
Do you,
30
sorry, do you have that, do you have
Yep.
that section handy, just so I can make sure?
436.2.5.A.
Thank you.
And, oh, two more. The acoustic questions, you says can you supply a study? Because you're saying there was a study done on existing buildings. Can you supply that study? That was question number 3 on the acoustic.
I'm sorry, which question are you saying?
3. Says, have you done a study on existing buildings? And the answer is yes. Okay, can you supply that study? Last one I got, and I don't know if you can really answer it. How are you gonna stop tractor trailers from, and I call it Upper Reynolds Street, but I'm sorry, it's Reynolds Street. How are you gonna stop tractor trailers from using Reynolds Street to Knox, to Kinley Drive, to Garthia to go southbound? I don't think we want tractor trailers going on Reynolds Street, through Knox, through Kinley Drive to Garthia. We want them to go Westcott to Garthia to 395. So I don't know how you're gonna answer that, but could you look at that?
Yes, and we intend to apply to OSTA as part of that review process for no truck prohibition on that road. So that is something that funnels through the State Traffic
So
Administration.
a big sign saying no trucks.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Couldn't the same thing be said about is it Reynolds Street Extension? Where you go down?
Reynolds Street. I used to
No,
call
you
that-
go
yeah,
and you take that shortcut to the right and comes out.
That's up on Reynolds Street, but I always call it.
Yeah. I mean, it applied to that too as well. Okay, anybody else? We gotta have one more meeting with this anyway, so.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Sir.
just have Mr. Vertucci just go back a minute and address one of the comments or questions that came out of your back and forth with Ty and Bond? And I think the question that was asked was, what is the scope of the state of Connecticut review when OSTA goes through its review of the application? What are the issues that they are looking at? And Mark, can you just summarize that, please?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, sorry, what I hit on before. With the traffic impact study, they are looking at impact to the local road network and the state road network as far as delay and capacity goes. They're also looking at safety with respect of intersection sight lines, safety of truck turning movements. We have looked at those at all of the intersections. We've expanded our study network. All of them operate at acceptable levels of service. As I mentioned, they all have sufficient sight line. We're doing substantial off-site improvements to ensure there will be safe and efficient operations post-development. Yes, the percent increases are substantial, again, because of the volume is so low on the existing road network. You know, if you're on say a residential road, you've got 10 cars and you add a couple of houses, there's 10 more trips. Yeah, it's doubled, but the existing volume is so low, you're not gonna see a substantial impact there. On Knox, our combined volume is 278 trips in the morning, peak hour, and 260 in the afternoon. That is very low for an interstate off-ramp, extremely low. and the competing volume coming out of Laham Street is 4 cars. So again, this is not going to create a congestion or a delay issue on Knox Avenue. The road has plenty of reserve capacity to handle this additional traffic. I did want to hit on one other thing, the remaining time bond comment on the signalization. That is something that, again, we would do during the subsequent to the OSTA, if the town was to approve and OSTA was to approve, we would go into design. They would be reviewing the traffic signal design at that point. We don't really get into the design details on signal layout and equipment layout this early stage. We did show a preliminary span layout there just because OSTA likes to see a conceptual layout in their application, just to ensure there's no right-of-way issues or utility issues. So we absolutely can accommodate time bonds, comment to,
We got another
further
meeting,
that
so.
design. Yep.
One other comment I would like to make, because I would like to ask you to do this for the record for next meeting, and I'll give it to you now so that give you time to prepare, but I want you to make a presentation as to how this application meets the regulations for this site, for the business park. As it has been said several times here, when we did the regulation changes, the intent, as we understood it as commissioners, was always going to be multiple small unit buildings. So just for the record, you can make a presentation to show how it fits the regulations as written.
Happily do that.
If you could do that for the next
please.
meeting, please.
We will.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody at this point? Can I have a motion, Georgia?
Motion, to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second by Michael. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.